And happy Father's Day to all the dads out there tonight. We are at Dodger Stadium to renew one of the oldest and fiercest rivalries in baseball as the Dodgers host the Giants. Welcome to Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. It's been a good weekend so far for the visitors, the San Francisco Giants, who rode a grand slam from Buster Posey to a 9-5 win on Friday night, and then hit two more home runs in last night's game. Justin Maxwell with a two-run homer. Brandon Belt would add a two-run homer. The Giants win 6-2. And with the two wins in the first two games of this series, guys, they are just a half game back of the scuffling Dodgers right now. 38-31 for the Dodgers. They've lost 6 of 8. The Giants, after a dreadful start to the season, are playing much better, and they are just a half game back. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Los Angeles. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Kurt Schilling. Schill, let's start with you. We're going to see Tim Lincecum tonight on the mound for the Giants. This is not the same Lincecum from a few years ago, but he's getting the job done.
He's still good. That's the big thing. And so many pitchers we've seen over the last couple of years. CC Sabathia comes to mind. Guys who were Cy Young Award winners. Tim's won 2. Whose stuff is different. And some guys cannot lose or leave pitching with what they had. And he does. He pitches with what he has, not what he had. And he throws a lot of off-speed stuff. Not afraid to walk a guy, not afraid to pitch around a guy. He pitches to win, and it's showing.
They've won 3 World Series championships in the last 5 years, so we should never sell the Giants short. What's been the key to them this year?
Well, contributions from guys who you didn't know you're going to get from. Brandon Crawford, to me, has put himself close to this MVP talk because of what he's done. Matt Duffy's had a great year so far, filling in for Casey McGee when he struggled early in the season. But when you talk to the players here, they have a confidence about them. They know they're all not superstars. They have one in their everyday lineup in Buster Posey. But they know how to play the game. They play it the right way. Don Madden even told us. He said no team plays harder than this team. That's a great compliment to their manager.
Another guy having a terrific year, Joe Panik, in the top 10 in the league in hits and batting average and doubles, and he's standing by at field level with the Buster on.
Joe, last year he had 1 homer and 269 at bats, but Bruce Bochy told me he's going to hit for power. And this year you have 6 homers, 307 batting average. How come the power's come this year?
Just a couple things. I think the biggest thing has been my approach. I had a conversation with Buster Posey in spring training, and he was just talking to me about being more aggressive early in the count. Because he's like, you're a good 2-strike hitter, so don't be afraid to get to 2 strikes. So go ahead and attack, be more selective, aggressive early in the count. I think I haven't been missing the pitches out over the middle of the plate early in the count. I think that's led to more extra base hits this year.
You faced Brett Anderson tonight. What sort of particular challenges he faced in these late afternoon conditions?
Yeah, his ball's got a lot of movement. He's got a good sinker, 2-seamer, and he's got a good slider, and he mixes his pitches very well. So anytime a guy has good movement on his ball with the shadows, it's hard to pick up spin and stuff. So you have to have kind of a simpler approach and just really try to stay short, not to do too much. And I think that's going to be the key for us tonight, not do too much.
Joe, thanks. Dan, back to you.
All right, Buster, thank you. All right, the Dodgers. They can't beat the Giants this year. They're 2-9 against the Giants. They've lost 6 of their last 8. What do you see? What's wrong with them?
Well, they can't score runs. And for a team that you thought was going to have a high-powered offense, they've really struggled. And Don Mattingly told us, Adrian Gonzalez probably in the worst slump of his career right now. He's the guy. If he doesn't get it going, this could continue on. But he's too good a hitter. I think he's going to get out of this thing.
Well, I think the new ownership group of this Dodgers franchise is understanding something. I think Magic Johnson knew a long time ago, payroll doesn't equal wins. And you heard a lot about chemistry in the trades they made this winter. I think as much coming in as going out, you need to pay attention to those things. They're an incredibly talented roster, but they're not the favorites right now.
Whoever wins tonight will be in first place of the National League West at the end of the evening. It is always special when the Giants take on the Dodgers. They've been doing this for decades on both coasts, and they will renew their rivalry tonight here at Dodger Stadium. Tim Lincecum on the mound for the Giants. Brett Anderson for the Dodgers. The Giants looking for the sweep and a chance to take over first place with a win here tonight. Bell's grilled stuffed nacho. The first nachos designed not to be shared. Live Mas. And in part by Nissan, innovation that excites. And the experts at Benjamin Moore, paint like no other. To find an authorized retailer near you, go to benjaminmoore.com. A nice warm evening here in Southern California. We are at Dodger Stadium as Bruce Bochy's Giants go for the sweep. 3 World Series championships in the last 5 years. And he was is relaxed the word I'm looking for, as ever in his office pregame?
Rather laid back,
yeah.
yes.
Does he have another mode?
No. Even when he was playing, he was that way.
Yep. There's something to be said for that.
Angel Pagan, the leadoff hitter for the Giants. Brett Anderson, the left-hander on the mound for the Dodgers tonight. And we are ready to roll here in L.A. Pagan hitting .268 on the season, has not homered this year. And in fact has not homered in over 500 at-bats. This goes back to May of last season. Missed a lot of time at the end of last year with injuries. Nori Aoki, who's been doing a lot of leading off for the Giants, was hit by a pitch just above his right ankle last night, is not in the lineup tonight. Pagan slides up to the leadoff spot for the Giants as Anderson misses away. So it'll be Pagan, Panik, Matt Duffy in the 3 spot tonight for the Giants, and then Buster Posey hitting cleanup. There's Aoki, who has had a heck of a season. One of a number of so-called unheralded players. Matt Duffy's one of them. Joe Panik, some guys in the bullpen we'll talk about a little bit later. Chris Heston, who threw a no-hitter 2 starts ago. They are getting contributions from everybody on the roster. Filling in for the injured guys, you see Hunter Pence there alongside Aoki. Pence is out with tendonitis in his wrist. He's only started 18 games this year.
Yeah, who would have thought that this team would be a half a game out of first place this late in the season when Hunter Pence, especially the guys that they lose pretty much every year. How do you replace it? Michael Morris last year was so big in the postseason for the Giants, and now Brandon Crawford's going to hit 5th for us.
I see a lot of Bill Belichick in Boch, in that he doesn't allow yesterday to affect tomorrow. And hey, we don't have Hunter Pence. Nothing we can do about it. They bring in baseball players, and so they don't replace guys. They just bring in other guys to do the job. And then it ends up being, when Hunter comes back, they've got 27 big league players on the 25-man roster.
Breaking ball, pop foul. Brett Anderson on the mound for the Dodgers. Big left-hander who's had a lot of injuries in his career, but so far so good in the health department this season. Has pitched pretty well, although Schill has not gotten the wins to show for it. Just 2-4 with a 3.43 ERA. Had a good outing against Texas on Tuesday.
Well, everybody has that. Every staff has that guy who pitches well, and the record doesn't reflect.
On the breaking ball, and it's lined into left. A base hit for Pagan.
You're going to see a lot of balls down in the zone, unlike that one, breaking ball up, but he works fast, got a good pace, keeps the ball down the strike zone.
Let's take a look at the Giants lineup now, presented by Taco Bell. Joe Panik hitting over 300 in the 2 spot. Buster Posey having a very typical Posey season. He's at first base tonight. Andrew Susac is behind the plate. And Brandon Belt is out in left field. Bruce Bochy knew that tonight he wanted Posey at first, meaning Belt couldn't play first, so with Aoki out, they had to find a left fielder, and he half-kiddingly, Bochy said, they've got a home run rule on their team. If you hit a home run in a game, you get to play the next day, and Belt hit a home run yesterday, so he is back in the lineup tonight playing left field. Not as familiar a position for him as first base is, of course. Here's Panik, second-year second baseman out of St. John's. And boy, I know, Cracky, you spent some time with the double play combo, Panik and Crawford, in the clubhouse before the game. Both of them having terrific seasons.
Both of them having terrific seasons, and both of them basically taking on the personality of their superstar Buster Posey. Very quiet, very unassuming. They don't draw attention themselves, kind of downplay actually what they're doing. But when you start talking about them together as a group in the middle infield, that's when they light up. Talking about playing with each other, shortstop, second baseman.
And Panik, one of a number of left-handed batters the Giants have who hit lefties very well. He's hitting .345 on the season against left-handed pitching.
Well, Crawford also having a big year against lefties and makes Bruce Bochy's job a lot easier.
And Anderson falls behind, 3 balls and a strike.
You're going to see what's called a real heavy ball tonight from Anderson, and that'll be lower half of the strike zone. But it really is, honestly, when you catch it, it feels heavy. It feels heavier than a regular ball because it's got so much downward action. And he throws one. He keeps it down. So you'll see a lot of 2-1, 3-1 counts where he gets bad contact.
Gonzalez to second, one back to first. Pretty defense for the 3-6-3 double play.
Even though he's struggling offensively, Adrian Gonzalez, this is one thing that never leaves him, and that's an unbelievable glove and the ability to throw. He had time to get up, but you know what? He's so accurate. He makes a great throw to second base to Jimmy Rollins, and it's an easy turn because Paddock is not a speed burner, but just look how quickly Adrian Gonzalez got to that ball, got out of his glove, from his knees, and a perfect throw to Jimmy Rollins.
So 2 down, nobody on, just like that. And now the batter is Matt Duffy. Duffy, 24 years of age, out of Long Beach, California, and hitting in the 3 spot. He's just 170 pounds. He's a natural middle infielder as he bangs one off the leg of Anderson into foul territory. And Duffy thinking 2. And it wasn't a good thought. So the inning is over. 2 hits, but Anderson faces the minimum in the top of the first. Giants and Dodgers. Don Mattingly's lineup presented by Taco Bell looks like this. The Dodgers actually lead the National League in home runs, but as we mentioned, over the last month or so, they are struggling offensively. So Mattingly's made a number of changes in his lineup, including elevating the hot Justin Turner to the 3 spot in the lineup. All those big names, and Justin Turner is hitting third. A scuffling Adrian Gonzalez is just 6 for his last 54. On the mound tonight for the Giants to face Puig and Jock Peterson and Adrian Gonzalez and others. Tim Lincecum, who is 7-3 on the season, a 3.31 ERA. He doesn't throw hard anymore. He doesn't go that deep into the game anymore. But still, he's doing enough to win more than he's losing right now for the Giants.
He's good. I mean, he's still good. And the hair from the back has gone to the mustache, I guess. But he's good. And he's understood that he's had a drastic drop in his stuff from a physical standpoint, but he's pitches with what he has.
Yasiel Puig in the leadoff spot. That's a foul ball off his foot. Just a couple of days ago, another one of the changes that Mattingly made were Puig up to leadoff, Peterson down to the 2 spot. Just moving around the pieces, Mattingly said. I think the Giants are not convinced that that was a foul ball. But we will play on. You can see Puig's numbers against Lincecum. So Lincecum saying, hey, I'll take it out any way I can get it. And I don't think that ball hit his foot. And a fly ball to right field. Maxwell there, 1 down. Let's go back to pitch and see if we can get a look. Did it hit the foot of Puig? Tough to tell.
They get a better.
Yeah,
it did. There it glanced off of it. Yeah.
Puig retired on the fly ball, and here's the rookie Jock Peterson. Hit a home run yesterday, his first since the 3rd of June, his 18th of the season, and very few of them, Crucky, have been cheapies.
No, and you know, we saw him in the clubhouse today. I mean, all these guys are huge, but he's not one of them. But the bat speed is unbelievable.
The shift on for the Giants. This being Father's Day, Peterson's dad played some baseball. Only got 8 games in a major league uniform. Was with the Dodgers. 5 plate appearances, 4 at bats. Spent a lot of time in the Dodgers minor league system, the Blue Jays minor league system as well. But whatever he taught his son, he has taught him well. This guy's got a ton of power, and you've seen the highlights on SportsCenter, Baseball Tonight, and elsewhere. He can go get him in center field as well. Something the Dodgers really lacked the last couple of years, a true center fielder.
Well, all spring, you heard about him as a prospect, but you know, February, March, and April it was Chris Bryant, who rightfully so, he's come up and done it. But this kid, to me, I'm not used to shaking kids, the younger guys' hands, and not having them be just huge. He's not huge. He's an athletic looking center. He looks like a center fielder, but where does the power come from?
And a swing and a miss on a breaking ball in the dirt, 2 down.
And I think one of the things that Tim realizes and has realized, you got to make guys get out of the strike zone. Good curveball, great location with it, but that's all set up by the 88 command of the 88-mile-an-hour fastball. He stays on the periphery of the strike zone, teases you a little bit, and then he throws a pitch that looks like you're going to crush it until it gets to the plate.
So 2 up and 2 down here in the bottom of the first, and the batter is third baseman Justin Turner. I'm sure you talked about Lincecum adapting. Turner moved up into the 3 spot, has homered in each of the first 2 games. So you talked about Lincecum adapting back in his Cy Young days. He was 95, 96 with regularity with a fastball. Average better than 93 over a 5-year stretch. He's under 89 right now. That's his average fastball. Meaning that, yeah, every now and again there's a 90 or a 91, but there are also some 86 and 87.
And I think the key especially for young pitchers tonight, watch how many of these, that first pitch in this at bat was as bad a fastball as he could throw, right down the middle. But as the count goes, he gets more to the edges. He gets you to move out of the strike zone. And I think part of it is because he's not throwing 95. You see it well. I don't think you pick it up out of his hand well because he still has that deception. But it's slow enough that you get a good look at it. He just, you know, the key to pitching, you throw a ball when they're swinging and a strike when they're taking.
There's Turner's view. And it's ball 4.
And that right there, Dan, that to me is one of the biggest things. He's not afraid to put you on. And that spells that's Tom Glavine. That's how Tom Glavine won 300 games. 85, 86 miles an hour, but he never gave in.
But you also know, too, I mean, here's the 3-1 breaking ball to Turner that he bounces for ball 4, but he also knows, too, Justin Turner swinging a hot bat. Adrian Gonzalez is struggling right now. You know, why give in to the guy who's swinging a hot bat when we can go after the guy who's struggling? Now, you're risking potential damage here with Adrian Gonzalez if today's the day he breaks out of it. But you got to find that out first.
But what you do for me is you're telling everybody right now, for me, Lincecum's telling everybody right now, I feel good with my changeup because righties hit him better than lefties do. And that changeup, his lethal changeup, to me, is one of the reasons why lefties have so much trouble with them.
Gonzalez still with some good overall numbers despite the slump because he got off to such a great start this year. Hit 5 home runs in the first 3 games of the season. Was hitting .523 11 games in, and it was still in the 370s in mid-May, but he's been cold for a couple of weeks now.
I'll tell you one more thing, that this mix, he's shown you all his pitches already. We're 3 hitters in, he's shown you everything he's got. But what he's also done is he's made it so you can't sit on a fastball. So he can go 2-1. He can throw a fastball and a fastball count if he's commanding it, because you're looking at all the other stuff.
Line past a diving Crawford into center field, a base hit. Turner on his way to third, and in there in a slide.
That's what you risk when you're pitching. Kind of not wanting to pitch to Turner, because Adrian Gonzalez can get hot at any time. But that's a pitch right there, an elevated breaking ball that, if Adrian Gonzalez was going really good, that could have been a home run to left center field. And he's lucky. He is very lucky that was just a single. And he's first and third with 2 outs now, because that could have been some damage early for the Dodgers.
The batter is Howie Kendrick.
Tell you what, Crucky, when he came up in Anaheim, I thought this guy was going to be a Hall of Fame offensive player. Ball just comes off his bat so differently.
Kendrick, a .292 lifetime hitter in the majors. Spending all that time with the Angels before this year.
He just seemed to square the ball up so consistently.
A lot of changes for the Dodgers between last season and this season. Grandal behind the plate. Kendrick and Rollins up the middle. Peterson out in center. They are in first place. They're a half game up on the Giants. Dodgers are 38-31. But hardly scoring at all these days. 19 runs in their last 8 games. Check swing foul off. And how about this road trip? They start a 4-game series in Chicago tomorrow night against the Cubs. Then they go to Miami for 3. Then they go to Arizona for 3.
Oof.
That's a road trip.
Scheduling bliss right there.
And no off days on that trip. Off the glove of Posey to the backstop, and this will score a run. Oh, Susak, excuse me, catcher.
Well, and that's some things you can run into with Tim Lincecum is you know, when he was throwing 96, 97, he didn't have the greatest of command. And when you're throwing 88 or 89, even at times it gets away from him.
Wild pitch charge to Lincecum gives the Dodgers an early lead.
That's where he's going to have. I mean, that's an overthrown breaking ball, obviously, but that's the one thing he's gotten away from, is he's lost his velocity. He doesn't overthrow the ball, or shouldn't as much.
Changeup lined into left, a base hit, and Gonzalez will have to be held at third on the single by Kendrick.
Yep. Well, that split and the breaking ball work because they're in the lower half of the zone, and that's not where he's after. He wants a swing and a miss or a ground ball right there. That's a good swing.
Very good swing. You see, because it was an off-speed pitch, there was a slight hesitation in Howie Kendrick's approach right there to that pitch, but still stayed back long enough with his hands to drive that in the left field.
There's Alex Guerrero, a swing and a miss. Guerrero getting a start in left field tonight in Andre Ethier's place. Couple of reasons. One, Ethier's been struggling a little bit, and also righties are actually hitting better off Lincecum than lefties are.
You see right there is a perfect example. 2 young hitters early in the lineup, swung at everything Lincecum threw up there. Gonzalez patient, Turner patient, Kendrick patient. They got pitches to hit. Then the first pitch to Guerrero is a breaking ball, bounced on home plate, and he swings at it to get 0-1. That's the biggest learning curve as a young player.
You guys see he's already got 23 pitches. Well, this year, as he gets older, he's pitching fewer innings. He averages just 94 pitches per start.
And barely over 5 innings per start. It's a dangerous hitter. Guerrero's got power. Runner goes from first. Pitch swung on and fouled off. 1-2 out on Guerrero.
We're now calling 31 older. Yeah, he's right.
He's got a lot of miles on him.
Yeah, no, he does.
He's thrown a lot of innings, and he's not a big 220-pound guy. Right?
No, but this, you know, that I'm not sure what to make of that. You know, he's in a situation where physically he should be, you know, as good as he can be, but he isn't a big guy, and so you know he has trouble, I would imagine, keeping weight on during the season.
1-2 swung on and missed, and the inning is over. But a run for the Dodgers, a 1-0 lead at the end of one. Buster Posey will lead it off for the Giants when we come back. Top of the second, Buster Posey leads it off for the Giants. First pitch swinging, and a two-hopper right at Kendrick, the second baseman, for out number one. In honor of dads everywhere, tweet us your Father's Day MLB pictures using hashtag BBTNDads, and it could show up later on tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. Before the game, Dodger players out on the field with their kids playing some catch, some first pitches. Dads and kids everywhere.
Teaching the game. Nothing better.
Brandon Crawford steps in. Crawford having a nice year. He's got 9 home runs. His career high is 10. He's driven in 42 runs. That leads the Giants, one ahead of Buster Posey. And as we mentioned, he's another one of the left-handed batters the Giants have. Just annihilating left-handed pitching. Panic's doing it. Aoki, who's not in the lineup tonight, is doing it. Aoki out with an injury, and Crawford as well.
I'm curious, Craig, what does that say about a left-handed hitter? Is he covering the part play? Is he staying in on the ball well? Why do some lefties hit lefties so well? Some guys just can't.
To me, it was all about the right shoulder. You know, if your right shoulder stays in, you got a chance. And you know, when I talked to Brandon today before the game, I asked him what has changed, and he said, I don't think anything. So he wasn't really sure of why he's having so much more success this year.
Well, Bruce Bochy made a good point. He hit a lot in the 8 spot prior to this year, and you know, as you've talked about, hitting in the 8th spot of the National League is about the toughest assignment you can get.
It's the worst place you can hit.
Swing and a miss, and Anderson gets it.
But I do agree about the value of that guy. I mean, I thought he was a game changer on defense, even if he didn't hit at all. And now that he becomes a top of the order hitter with that kind of a glove, you start talking about it in a very different light.
I think it's fascinating just when you talk to the Giants players that none of them are very much excited about a whole lot. They're just like, here's what we do. Yeah, but, you know, we play baseball. That's what we've been doing since we were kids. You wish everyone had that same approach.
Justin Maxwell, the batter.
Well, we're what? Last 6 years they've been in the World Series, counting the season. They've been there 3 times, and they won 3 times. The only constant in that 6 years for me has been Boch. I mean, obviously they're same front office people, but when you talk about on the field personnel, players, rosters turn over, rosters change. You look at that first roster from the first World Series, but Boch is still here. And it's the same team from a play perspective. They play hard every night. They have had some good pitching, obviously, with Bumgarner and Lincecum, but, you know, Buster Posey's the biggest star, and outside of San Francisco, he's not half as well known as he should be.
No.
And that guy right there, that's an October #1.
Well, Bruce Bochy gives credit to the players for, you know, running the ship properly, playing hard, policing themselves, and he also gives a lot of credit to Brian Sabia, the GM, for bringing in the kinds of players the Giants want, the kinds of players who have good character. There's a lot of people giving other people a lot of credit in Giants country. There's a lot of deflecting praise and handing it off to somebody else.
But it's like when I was talking to Crawford today. He said the thing is that you get once you're here for a while is the coaches give you confidence, but they also give you the leeway to play with instincts. They're not always telling you this is where you have to play. They leave it up to him sometimes. Like he said, sometimes he'll look into Ron Wotus in the bullpen, their infield instructor and their defensive coach, and
ball down to third, backhanded by Turner. Close, but out at first is Maxwell to end the inning. To the bottom of the second, Dodgers up 1-0.
Because I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for my dad. He took me out just about every day I wanted and threw buckets and buckets of balls and took me to Dodger games and Angel games and kind of showed me the way.
Once you have your first, it definitely changes your thought process on how you want to set an example for him. When you have someone following you around, you want to make sure that they know this is how my dad does it. I want to do it like him.
Show the family. Apparently the little Pedroias are just like Dustin Pedroia.
Well, they're except taller now. They're 5 and 6, I think, and taller. But that's fitting that the highlight they show is his kid drilling them and him charging. I mean, but what a wonderful family. Good guy, great kids, and yes, Kelly Pedroia, his wife, and Shonda, my wife, talk often, and she's exhausted.
Here's Yasmani Grandal.
He's probably tougher to keep up with than the
That's
kids.
exactly right. Yeah, my wife for some reason says it's somewhere in our house.
Bunting because of the shift, and he's got himself a base hit. It's something you wonder why you don't see more often in certain situations.
You know, Dan, you're exactly right, especially leading off an inning. You know, why not? You know, I always say, you know, try to keep the leadoff hitter off base. They're giving you a hit. I mean, you look where Duffy's playing over there at third. I mean, that's not even a great bunt. But because Lincecum falls off toward first base, you don't have to make a great bunt.
I got to. We talk about this week after week. Now that's a great play. That doesn't change anything unless he does it again. From a defensive perspective, they'll be right back to playing the shift if he doesn't do it again.
There's Jimmy Rollins, a newcomer to the Dodgers this year. And a couple of hits yesterday to get him over the 200 mark. It has been a struggle for the entire season on the offensive side of things for Rollins. Lines the ball into left field, a base hit. And 2 men aboard with nobody out for the Dodgers. So now we have an obvious bunting situation for Brett Anderson.
And that's the thing that, you know, as you get older, the power of Jimmy Rollins has decreased. He has to start hitting the ball the other way and try to stand on top of and hit it on the line or on the ground.
Way in on the grass at third is Duffy. Crawford, the shortstop, cheating way over toward third base. Here comes Posey from first, and now Lincecum will step off. Rocky, what are the options here for the Giants?
Well, because Grandal's not a great runner, they're hoping to cut off the run, get the out at third base. But, you know, this is a situation right here. You want to limit damage. If you risk getting him in third and you don't get him, now you're in trouble. You're looking for a big inning.
Crawford racing to third. Panic racing to first.
And the reason, as a pitcher, I'm aggressive off the mound, it's a force at third. The ball just has to beat the runner. That's the times you take those chances. That's the times you're aggressive defensively. Otherwise, unless it's a horrific punch, you take the out.
And this is also knowing who the pitcher is. You know, you wouldn't do this off a pitcher who could hit, but, you know, Brett Anderson spent his career in the American League, probably didn't get many at bats, and that's why Duffy and Posey can charge like they are, and Crawford can try to get to third base quicker than Grandal can.
Bunted foul.
He could hit a little bit.
Could he ever?
You think? And this is where, if you're an inexperienced with the bat guy like Anderson is, you see all this movement going on. You see Posey charge, you see Duffy charge. You're trying to lay down a blueprint bunt.
Keep it on at 1-2.
Well, you have to. Here's the thing, Crucky. You know, you start in spring training. When you change leagues, the bunting is new, it's fresh. You've done it in high school. You might have done it in a while. But as a National League pitcher, you have to be able to get a bunt down. And that's not saying it's easy, but there's about 19 different things right there that are fundamentally incorrect from a bunting perspective.
Yeah, he's squaring around, but it's like he's trying to drag bunt while he's squaring around.
It's hard, but it's something you got to practice because you have. This is.
Gets it down. Do they have a play? Dropped by Lincecum, and they'll settle for the out at first as Anderson advances the runners.
Well, here's the issue when you get 2 strikes. You don't know if he's bunting or not. Before, Duffy and Posey were both charging hard. Duffy didn't charge there at all in that play, and because of that, it took Lincecum a while to get there. Crawford wasn't covering third. You have to hold your ground as a middle infielder and a corner infielder.
As a pitcher right there, you turn and throw or you go to first, because the ball is almost always going to beat him on a bunt like that. And the second you fumble, the second you hesitate, you go to first and take the out. Now you got to get it, because now this makes it, you need a pop out or a punch out.
So here's Puig, second and third, one out. Puig go for one tonight, but 10 for 18 in his career against Lincecum. 0-2.
Here's where Puig, you got to understand the situation. The middle infielders are halfway. You know, you still have to try to stay on a ball and hit one the other way.
Crucky, since Puig came in the league, how have you seen him adapt with his approach?
He's still a free swinger, and I think sometimes he goes up there with a game plan before on the first pitch, like I'm going to take it or I'm going to swing at it.
I'll tell you what,
regardless of where it is.
Yeah, Buster, I think Crucky, the thing that I see is inconsistency in the approach. There are games where he looks locked in the at bats, and it's a long season, but there are games where I feel like he just gives away at bats.
Yeah, you can see that.
You can see the frustration on his face,
yes.
Very evident at times.
Which is fine. Yep. I mean, it's a long. That's not a problem. It just seems like
lays off a curveball that just misses.
See, now that's where you think to yourself, okay, he's starting to figure it out, because 2 years ago, last year, that's a swing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's a big swing, roll over to third base, or swing and miss.
Mound, yeah.
Foul. Got a curveball that was down again, but that one kind of cut through the middle of the plate.
How about that play? A little semi-diving stop.
Got a little dirty. This is don't rub it. This is the challenge. This is the situation for Tim Lincecum that's changed over his career. He can't make you swing and miss like he used to be able to with multiple pitches. So he's got to pitch in these situations and not throw. Like that. That's throwing. Because now you back yourself into a corner. Yeah, you don't give in. You pitch around. You only have one out. And the ball here, my bet is that he's guessing on a swing and he's going to throw him the ball again. Yeah, probably a split.
That's what I think. The split or the breaking ball. See if he can use that aggressiveness of Puig against him.
Now the split is the change. It's a split change, right? It's a split fingered pitch, but it has kind of change up action. Is that accurate?
No, it's a split fingered pitch, but it's change up speed.
Right.
His fingers are too small.
Yeah, he's got really small hands, and having seen his hands, I'm stunned that his breaking balls have always been as good as they have with the rotation.
Puig stays alive.
And I think he's going to throw it again. I think he throws a split here the whole way through until he gets a result.
Ninth pitch of the at-bat upcoming to Puig.
When he used to throw 92, 93, 94, you could overthrow a fastball here and get that pop-up, get that swing and miss.
Lincecum in a jam, already trailing 1-0 in the bottom of the second. And he got a piece of the curveball. And after a moment there, it almost looked like Puig was getting ready to run down to first, as if he didn't know it had been called a foul ball.
Yeah, very weird reaction by Yasiel Puig.
He might not have touched that ball.
I think he's the only one that knows he didn't.
Yeah. Up the middle, a base hit. Rondal in to score. Rollins in to score. A good at bat by Puig, and it's 3-0 Dodgers.
Well, when you're trying to get a guy to chase, you're trying to get him to chase a ball he can't get his barrel to. I mean, not a horrible pitch, but he wanted that ball about 6 or 7 inches lower, Crucky.
And you see the spin on that ball coming off the bat of Yasiel Puig. He hit it right off the end of the bat, but he's so long and so strong that even off the end of the bat, with the infield halfway, you see Crawford there. That ball was getting through that infield, and it still got through pretty quick. But
he broke his bat right there.
He broke his bat because he hit it right off the end.
And that was a heck of an at bat. That curveball he took, I think, was pivotal for him.
And perhaps getting a break on the questionable foul ball was pivotal too.
And the way he's running on his pop-up and that base hit right there wouldn't surprise me if he tries to steal early here.
Here's Jock Peterson with a shift on. Peterson struck out in his first at bat. The 81st strikeout of the season for Peterson. He's walked 48 times. So he'll take his walks. He swings and misses.
He'll clean up that strikeout thing, and he'll be. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a high 300 above 300 hitter because of the power, but 285, 295.
There's
possibly even a 300 hitter.
You know what?
Consistently.
I don't think there's any reason you won't see the Trout approach in the sense that he'll strike out, but I think he's smart enough to go into the winter saying, okay, here's what I need to fix and get better at, and I will. And you have to be pretty talented to do that. It's funny watching. He got a little animal roach to him where he kind of just stands there with his hands down and almost like Eric Davis where he just kind of dating myself, I think.
A couple of off-speed pitches. Lincecum out in front 0-2.
As Lincecum's given up 12 steals and 13 attempts this year, and Crucky and Chill, how does the count sort of change Puig's thinking and when he's going to go?
I have no idea.
Well, you're heading the count like Lincecum is right now. The pitch out is an obvious problem.
A rocket to right center field. One bounce off the wall. Puig getting the wave around third. Crawford's relay to the plate hits the mound. The run scores, and into third is Peterson. 4-0 Dodgers.
And this is what tells you that Jock Peterson has that ability to hit 300. Hanging breaking ball, he stays on it, drives in the gap in right center field, and Pagan got to this ball really quick. And Puig, though, after seeing where the ball was headed, he took off. Lorenzo Bundy, third base coach for the Dodgers, no hesitation whatsoever. And if the ball didn't hit the mound, it would have been a closer play.
Was there a play at home, though, anyway?
It would have been close, I think, if it didn't bounce off the mound. It bounced off the mound and took off it, and give Jock Peterson credit. As soon as Crawford let that ball loose, he was running to third.
Double and an RBI. Peterson takes third on the throw home. A 3-run inning, a 4-0 lead for the Dodgers. And the Giants bring the infield in for the most part. Third baseman Duffy's a little bit further back than the others. Justin Turner is the batter. He walked and scored his first time out. Would you ever have thought in a game between these two teams that Matt Duffy and Justin Turner would be the two number 3 hitters? But they've earned it with the way they're swinging the bat.
They have earned it, and yeah, I mean, we asked Don Mattingly about it today when we met with him. How big was Justin Turner been? And he said, "This is, we don't know where we'd be without him."
Juan Uribe had been the third baseman for the Dodgers, and Turner kind of a utility guy.
Wildly popular, but Uribe became expendable because of the what Turner did last year and up until now this year.
One heck of a beard.
And with the offense struggling, there has been kind of an increased call here locally for the Dodgers to consider bringing up a couple of players. A young shortstop, Corey Seager, younger brother of Kyle, and also another player they've signed from Cuba, Hector Olivera, who is a second baseman and a third baseman, really more of a third baseman. But of course Turner plays third base right now, and he's swinging the bat great. Buster, what do you hear about Olivera and if and when he may come to the big leagues?
That Olivera is like a player who is early in spring training and early March, they think he's going to flat out hit. You don't give $62.5 million to a 30-year-old player unless you think he can do that, and evaluators with other teams believe that too. He's tearing it up in AAA, but they want to give him more time and get him, as Don Mattingly told us before the game, in more of a baseball condition.
But where's he going to play? I know Donnie said they're playing him at third or playing him at second, but don't they have Howie Kendrick and Justin Turner at those positions? I don't.
Kendrick a free agent at the end of the year. Base hit left center for Turner. He keeps swinging a hot bat, and he's going for second after Belt boots it off his own foot. So it'll be an RBI single, should be an error on Belt, and it is 5-0 Dodgers. And Bruce Bochy has seen enough. He has pointed to the pen. Yusmeiro Petit will come in here. Tim Lincecum gets only 4 outs tonight. His night ends early. The Dodgers off and running early. Bruce Bochy going to his pen. Major league career, an inning and a third. He's given up 5 runs, another runner on. His responsibility. Show what went wrong tonight.
Well, everything. When you get 4 outs, this is the difference in Tim Lincecum from a couple years ago. The stuff, not many of these balls are center cut, but they're not the pitches. They don't have stuff on him. He's up in his zone. He's got to be down. He's got to be next to perfect. And that's what makes it hard to pitch that way. The velocity is always the great equalizer when you can command the ball around the strike zone. But nights like this, when you can't make people swing and miss, it can be challenging. Especially when your whole career is built on making people swing and miss.
So in from the pen is a guy who will do whatever is asked of him, and in this case it's long relief. Yusmeiro Petit, another one of the unheralded players on this Giants team, but he'll soak up some innings when they need it. And they need it.
Well, this is the game, Crucky, where, it's Sunday. This is a loss that Thursday or Friday you could feel if your bullpen, if somebody in the bullpen can't give you 4 or 5 innings.
Here's Adrian Gonzalez, had a base hit his first time up. And the shadows have now become a factor out about halfway between home plate and the mound.
They haven't been much of a factor for the Dodgers yet.
The only bit of good news so far for the Giants is they are off tomorrow, so that will give all the relievers who are needed tonight a day to recuperate. They head back home for a series that begins with the Padres on Tuesday night. Another base hit. Turner will stop at third. Gonzalez is 2 for 2.
We talked about Adrian Gonzalez, how great a hitter he's been throughout his career, and it's just a matter of time. And that's the approach you have to have. His first base hit, a hanging breaking ball, base line drive up the middle. This pitch, a ball away from him. He goes the other way. Not trying to do too much, staying within yourself. Get a couple hits, start making yourself feel a little better about yourself, and then all of a sudden the power will come.
Howie Kendrick. Panic battling the sun will make the catch for the second out.
Number 7, Alex Guerrero.
Well, last night, the Dodgers offense could not take advantage of their opportunities. 0 for 11 with men on base. How about 7 for 9 so far tonight?
I think 777 is good.
Well, but there's where numbers get skewed because you go you combine both games. The runner scoring position isn't that bad.
They're 7 for 20.
Yeah,
350. or
runners on base. I'm sorry, but still.
Nah. But that's one of the things that separates baseball too. Is there are so many guys who a small sample size will tell you nothing about them. You watch them over 162 games and you understand why they're good or great.
Alex Guerrero struck out to win the first. A 4-run second inning for the Dodgers to knock Tim Lincecum out of the game and increase their lead to 5-0. Trying to salvage the final game of this series. Whoever wins tonight will be in first place in this division at the end of the night. Fly ball to left. Belt the catch, and the inning is over. Tough night for Lincecum. The shortest start of his major league career. Just an inning and a third. He gives up 5 runs. The Dodgers spraying line drives all around the ballpark, and they lead 5-0. From Dodger Stadium, the Dodgers off to a 5-0 lead. Brandon Belt leads off the third for the Giants against Brett Anderson. Belt hitting .270 on the season, 9 homers, just 4 for his last 35, though. And he is the one left-handed batter the Giants have who does not hit lefties well, just a .146 on the season. He'll be followed by Andrew Susac and then Yusmeiro Petit, who is now batting in Tim Lincecum's spot.
For Brett Anderson, this is the shutdown inning. You want to go as quickly and dominantly as you can through these 3 outs, get off the field.
And the thing is, with the score 5-0, that they're not going to be pinch hitting from Yusmeiro Petit, the 3rd hitter in this inning. So he should have 1 out pretty much locked in. He gets these 2, it should be a quick inning.
And on the flip side of it, the only thing you don't want to do right here is walk the leadoff hitter.
Well, this is either 3-2 or a 5-1 game.
Or ball 4. It's not good. Leadoff walk. Well, some of the big news into baseball yesterday. How about what Max Scherzer did? Coming 1 out away from a perfect game before he hit Jose Tabata with a slider. Scherzer would go on to retire the next batter and earn the no-hitter. That's impressive. What's equally as impressive is in his last start, he threw a 1-hitter and struck out 16. So in his last 2 games, 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 hit batter.
And only 26 strikeouts, though. So
that looks like a little like Aroldis Chapman run right there. But that might be the most dominating back-to-back games ever thrown.
You can make a case for it. Now, Johnny Vandermeer threw 2 consecutive no-hitters, 1938 for the Reds. But I think walked 4 in one and 8 in the other. And the strikeout totals were lower. This was pure dominant for back-to-back starts.
Yeah, it's something about the game. I think it might have been the highest back-to-back game scores. But that was, I got on the plane to come out here, and he's in the 6th inning. I'm thinking, no, come on. But he's been everything the Nationals wanted him to be when they signed him this winter.
Did either of you guys have any issue with Tabata on that play? Some people say yes, some people say no.
No. I thought there was you're taught. I think you're taught. I was taught. You get out of the way. You move. You roll in. You don't back up.
Yep.
And I saw this. And I think maybe at the end he might have done a little of that, but you're trying to get on base.
Now he fouled off 5 pitches before that. This was an 8-9.
No, it was a good at bat.
So.
It's Max, I sure would tell you, he overthrew the ball.
Susac with a base hit into center. Up to second on the play goes Belt. And that'll bring up Petit, who knows a thing or two about losing a perfect game with 2 outs in the 9th inning. It happened in 2013. He started a game for the Giants against Arizona and retired the first 26 batters he faced before Eric Chavez singled to break up a perfect game. Not bad for a spot starter.
Yeah, no kidding. But getting back to Tabata, like we talked about with Crawford, hanging in on lefties, you have to keep that front shoulder in. And when you see a ball spinning like it's a slider, you try to go out and get it, because normally a slider's a pitch that's down and away. And when it backed up on him, he kind of dropped his elbow a little bit, but that's one of those things where it's tough to.
Well, here's the thing for me. There are no-hitters. Bud Smith of the Cardinals threw a no-hitter. A lot of times there's luck involved. Most times there's luck involved. And then there are no-hitters where you look at it and go, they had no chance. Right. Kerry Wood's game. Remember Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game? And everyone in Nolan Ryan's 38 no-hitters or whatever that was. Those last 2 starts from Scherzer, they didn't have a chance. Neither team had a remote possibility of putting anything together.
Petit squares again. Gets it down. Throw to second. Back to first in time. The Dodgers turn a double play.
I think they're going to look at this one. Great play by Gonzalez to get the lead runner, and that should never happen when you're the back end. Oh, I think Petit beat that throw though, but that should never happen. Getting thrown out on the back end of a bunt play when you're the guy they're not holding on. I mean, Sussek's got to get way out there and get on that play, but yeah, he easily beat that play.
This one. Yeah. Well, you would think.
Well,
There have been some there have been some eyebrow-raising decisions. A number of people have spoken out. Brad Ausmus spoke out pretty strongly about replay, and a lot of the managers feel it's maybe taken a step backwards this year.
I think we're all ready for some errors in the system to tighten up and speed it up and all those things. What I can't understand is I've seen a couple replays where the video clearly shows the opposite of the call, and they don't overturn it. And the only thing I could think of was they're not able to see the same camera views we're seeing. And I don't know if that's possible or not. But the goal is to get the call right, period. And I've seen a couple where they're not.
But they get every angle. They do get every angle in New York.
You hate to think. My thought is that is it umpires trying to protect umpires? I don't think it is. But I think you need an independent party in here involved in this process.
Because for people who don't know, it's an umpiring crew. One of their rotations now is in New York, in the video command center. So it's major league umpires looking at this.
And I know when we played, Crucky, umpires took care of each other. You know, hey, I didn't see that. I didn't have that call. You know, there were umpires that say, well, you know what, let's not let that happen or whatever. And I can't imagine that just stopped.
Well, according to the rule, the ball has to be in the back of the glove of the fielder, and that one didn't look like it was in the back of the glove, so Petit should get his helmet back on and go out there and run.
I think the other frustrating part is it seems like we know the answer long before they announce it.
Takes too long.
Yeah.
So they do overturn it. The Giants retain their challenge. So it'll be a fielder's choice for Petit, first and third, one out.
So they'll be watching 3 games and then just keep passing them over.
So Justin Turner looking for an explanation from Chris Guccione, the third base umpire. So the Giants down 5-0, but they've got something going here in the third. 2 men on with a 1 out for leadoff hitter Angel Pagan, who had a base hit his first time up.
Crucky, one of the things I heard, and I never confirmed this with an umpire, but I always heard that they made that call first base by sound. They listened for glove and impact on the bag. And that was how they made those calls. Because I always thought they were wrong, and they usually were right. When
I think they look at the foot on the bag and listen for the ball in the glove. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
The good ones.
Would you like to expand on that any further, or?
No, that's what I was always told.
That's what you were told? Yeah.
Believe me, I've had a lot of conversation with those guys out there.
Yeah.
What were you watching?
Really? Well, that's not really a conversation. That's an accusation.
Well, after that question, it became one-sided. Like, shut your mouth, I'm running you.
I wish we could run them. We can't run them.
No.
Can we run you?
No.
I had a couple more things to say, but I said it very politely.
You what?
Yeah.
No.
Teddy bear, man.
Polar bear.
Change up, down and away. 2 balls and a strike on Pagan.
Well, this is big for the Giants right here, and that's why I think that, you know, the sacrifice bunt, if he gets Susek to second and of course Belt goes to third, you know, base hit right here, 5-2, manageable.
Well, I think the Giants have already gotten themselves right back. I mean, Anderson needed to come out there and put up a quick 0. This Giants team, it's like Don said, they play you tough.
And a base hit through the left side to get the Giants on the board.
Number 12, Joe.
So Pagan 2 for 2.
Come on, Joe.
A long way to go, and Don Mattingly with a ton of respect for the Giants team. Dodgers are 2-9 against the Giants this year. Giants have played them great.
And you don't think that's creeping in the Dodgers' heads right now? Oh boy, 5-0. Here we go. Panic gets a hit right here. The whole atmosphere is going to just be demoralized.
Michelle, you talked about kind of the psychology of the shutdown inning after your team gets you some, how important it is to go out and shut them down.
Right, it's huge. It's a momentum thing. And a lot of times it has to do with how you shut them down. But they're right back in this game. I think in both dugouts they're right back in this game.
Two on with one out, a run in, and the 2-0 to Panic. Outside, ball 3.
Finally, motherfucker.
Three 3-0 the count on Panic, and he takes a strike. Full count. Second Petit at first, Pagan. Matt Duffy waiting on deck. Buster Posey behind him. As the Giants try to mount a rally here at Dodger Stadium. And it's just high, ball 4 to load him up. Let's take a look at a couple of earlier plays involving Brett Anderson. He's had a couple of moments already tonight. Hit on the right ankle, or right near the right ankle.
Yeah, inside, right kind of between the bone and the Achilles, I think.
Now watch this ball. Susak hits. He falls awkwardly. Then you see him limping. And then Panic, even the ball he hit foul down the right field line as he was going over to cover first base. He was limping very badly.
But he might get out of it. He does. The damage is minimized after the 5-4-3 inning-ending double play. The Giants will get 1 but leave 2 and trail 5-1 as we go to the bottom of the 3rd. Brett Anderson got as he allows just one run. Giants with the bases loaded, one out. We're looking for a big inning, but Anderson gets a lot of ground balls, and he got a timely one as they go around the horn to end the inning. So it is 5-1, the Dodgers lead as we go to the bottom of the third here at Dodger Stadium on Father's Day. One of the many #1 dads in the house tonight. Watching this ball game, the Dodgers and the Giants. The Giants winning the first 2 games of this series. Yusmeiro Petit came in last inning after Tim Lincecum was knocked out, the shortest start of Lincecum's big league career. Petit will face Grandal, Rollins, and Anderson, 7, 8, 9 in the Dodger lineup. And you can see Duffy's in a different spot now than he was last time after the bunt single against the shift by Grandal. Out in front of a changeup, 0-1.
Yeah, I guess you only have to do it once before they make an adjustment.
Well, again, you do it now, and now not just this game, but other teams start adjusting the shift. And that ultimately, if you know, I playing with David Ortiz, I can remember hearing him.
A high drive, deep right field, and this one will find its way into the bleachers. A home run for Grandal.
Goes change up and then tries to get a ball, I think, in off. Leaked out a little bit, and that ball's crushed. Crucky, that's a long way back there, too.
He didn't miss it. That'll take care of that bunt for the next time, too, I imagine.
6-1 Dodgers. A team that's been scuffling so much offensively sure doesn't look like it tonight. They've got 6 runs on 9 hits already in this game.
Well, and there are some things that really aren't as complicated as they sound. You can bunt the ball down the third baseline and give yourself a hit, and you can drive the ball to the back of the right field bleachers. If that's a legitimate concern for me as a pitcher, that changes everything I have to think about doing to you, especially early in the count. Now I can't just throw that fastball away to get ahead, because you might put, if I got the shift on, you're going to drop that ball down the third baseline.
The 88th home run hit by the Dodgers this year. That leads the National League. 1-2 the count on Rollins.
And that's amazing, because this was always this whole division, except for Colorado and Arizona, really are ballparks that aren't conducive to power.
Well, and with Hanley Ramirez and Matt Kemp no longer on the team, the expectation was the Dodgers would hit fewer home runs this year. Jock Peterson, of course, is a big reason. He's got 18. Alex Guerrero has 10. That was the 9 for Grandal.
And you would think by now Puig would have more than 3. Of course, he's been hurt a lot, but you know, he stays healthy the rest of the year, he'll end up with 15 to 20.
Gonzalez with 11. All of a sudden Rollins is hot. 2 for 4 yesterday, 2 for 2 tonight. The College World Series finals begin tomorrow on ESPN. It's a rematch of last year. The defending champions from Vanderbilt taking on Virginia in a best-of-3 game 1 tomorrow night, 8 Eastern on ESPN. Let's go down to Buster, who happens to be from one of these fine academic institutions. Which one would that be, Mr. Olney?
That would be Vanderbilt, but I do wish Virginia all the success in the world. Wish them well this week.
Nobody's buying that.
You know what?
Yeah, you shouldn't. Let me tell you right now. We're going for legacy. We're going for tradition. We're going for back-to-back.
Who's we? You got a mouse in your pocket?
Wow. He was wearing his Vanderbilt sweatshirt at the meeting this morning, as he always does.
Wearing a Vanderbilt hooded sweatshirt, complaining about how hot it is.
Yeah.
Anderson up to bunt again.
I love both teams. I don't generally root, but I'm an enormous Virginia fan this week.
You're in on the Who's, are you?
Come on, Ken.
That's okay, Shill. They need it.
Interesting.
Buster, give us a player on each roster to watch.
I would just say watch all the Vanderbilt guys.
For more great information like that, follow Buster on Twitter. 0-2 now the count on Anderson, who did get a sacrifice down with 2 strikes on his last time up. You can see 3 of the top 5 picks for the Dodgers in this past draft are playing in the finals. 2 of them for Vanderbilt, 1 of them for Virginia. Bunts on again with 2 strikes. Gets it down again with 2 strikes. And gets it done again. Rollins to second.
It was interesting today. I talked to Rick Huntington, the Dodgers pitching coach, and he watched Walker Buehler, their first-round pick, who went to Vanderbilt, and he was just raving about him in terms of what his stuff is. And you know, there's a chance, heck, maybe the Dodgers during the course of the offseason get involved in the bidding for David Price, who also went to Vanderbilt. So maybe they're building a little tradition here too, guys.
He's laying it on pretty thick tonight, isn't he?
My goodness. It must be hot down there.
Yeah.
I think that sun's affecting his brain.
A little delirious, I think.
Here's Puig up for the 3rd time. 3rd inning, and the leadoff man is up for the 3rd time already. Hit a fly ball to right in the 1st, had a 2-run single, a very good at bat in the 2nd inning. And almost a forgotten guy for the Dodgers these days is Carl Crawford. He's on the 60-day DL with a hamstring injury. So for the first time really in probably 3 years, you kind of know who's going to play in the different spots in the outfield pretty much on a given night. Generally, it's Ethier in left, Peterson in center, Puig in right. Tonight, Guerrero's in left. Sometimes you see Scott Van Slyke out there as well against a lefty. But this is about as much stability, Crucky, as Don Mattingly's been able to have in the outfield.
And they still got a bunch of outfielders, as long as Alex Guerrero's going to be put out there against certain left-handed pitchers. But I talked to Andre about this afternoon, and he said that that's the biggest difference this year because of last year with all the different combinations they were trying to use, that sometimes playing time was a little sporadic. And he said this year, I pretty much know every day when I'm going to be playing, when I'm going to be out of the lineup. And he said it makes it so much easier to prepare.
You guys were asking the question, Crucky, you did, about what do they do with Hector Oliveira if he comes up to the big leagues, play third base. Well, in this day and age when teams are looking for offense, the Dodgers do have a surplus of guys that they could put out on the market, perhaps get some bullpen help in return.
And you wonder, too, if the Dodgers are looking for a starting pitcher between now and the trading deadline. They've obviously got Kershaw and Greinke, so their 1-2 is about as good as anybody's 1-2 can be. As Puig skies one on the infield. And it'll be Crawford with Panic right beside him making the catch. 2 down. But with the injuries to Hyunjin Ryu and Brandon McCarthy both out for the season, the depth of their starting pitching has been weakened, and you just wonder if they'll look to go out and get a Cueto or somebody like that to try to put them over the top in terms of the rotation.
Yeah, you hear the names out there. Cueto, of course, is out there because he would just be a rental. So what are you going to give up for a rental? What is a team going to ask for a guy you're only going to have for a few months? To me, if I'm the Dodgers and they can take on the money, I think I go get a Cole Hamels, because the one thing the Dodgers don't have in their starting rotation is a guy who's proven he can pitch in the postseason. Cole Hamels has done that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Kershaw's going to get there, but he hasn't yet.
The issue in whether the Dodgers can go out and get anybody they want may not be can they afford it. Maybe will they give up the prospects to get it done?
You're not going to get Johnny Cueto for a couple of fringe guys.
No.
The Reds are going to maximize their return there. I think if you're going to get a Cole Hamels, you're either going to overpay or you're going to wait till the last minute when Ruben gets desperate.
But the thing with Cole Hamels is that you're going to have him for a few years. So if you give up a top prospect or 2 to get a Cole Hamels, you're going to have a #1 pitcher for the next 2 or 3 years. You give up 1 prospect, a top prospect for Johnny Cueto, he's liable to leave in 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah, that Kershaw, Hamels, Greinke coming up.
No, I jokingly mentioned that to some of the Giants players, and they're like, "Oh no, wait a second, they have enough."
Well, the issue that other teams have had talking with the Phillies about Cole Hamels is they feel like that the demands are unrealistic, that they're too high, and
in terms of cash or prospects?
In terms of prospects, and also the amount of money that the Phillies might be willing to talk about in eating, and I don't think there's any chance that the Dodgers are going to give up shortstop prospect Corey Seager.
Mentioned him a little bit earlier, younger brother of Seattle third baseman Kyle Seager, one of the top-rated prospects in all of baseball, and a lot of Dodger fans wondering, especially with Rollins struggling most of the year, when Seager might show up here, and whether or not the Dodgers decide that Seager's ready to be the full-time shortstop at the major league level.
Well, I'm going up on the other part of that conversation is the Ruben Amaro's situation. That Philadelphia thing has been a disaster. He's got to find a way, or they've got to replace him to fix that franchise. But Jimmy Rollins, I mean, I'd be curious to know what he's doing in the clubhouse, because Jimmy was very much a clubhouse presence guy. You hear this guy talked about everywhere.
I don't think they're going to trade this guy. I mean, they've given no one, not that they would tell anybody, but I mean, Buster, he is so highly thought of. They value Seager tremendously.
Yeah, no, they're not going to trade him. It's interesting. Yeah. Last year when they were talking with the Rays about David Price, that's who the Rays wanted in return, and of course the GM that point, Andrew Friedman, who now oversees the Dodgers baseball operations here.
You know, the other thing, because you've got Kershaw and Greinke, like there are some contending teams or some teams that feel they're contenders. Take a Toronto, for example. If they're going to go get a pitcher, they need a number one. Right. They got to go get a one. These guys have a couple of number ones already. So could the Dodgers, instead of maybe Cueto, look at a Kazmir, look at a Mike Leake for Cincinnati, who is a guy who could be out there just to, you know, round out the rotate, give him a 3 or something.
Yeah, like because you know that the demand for either one of those two guys is not going to be, you know, 2 or 3 top prospects.
Well, a lot of it depends on A, how you view your minor league system, but B, more importantly, how the teams selling view your minor league system.
Well, another thing I think that sometimes people forget with the second wild card, everybody thinks they're in it. So many more teams think they're in it right now.
Well, the Phillies shouldn't.
The Phillies should. Right. You know, I mean, the Brewers are obviously not in it. Oakland, who knows? Billy Beane could make a trade at any moment. You never know. Cincinnati. I mean, people from the outside say they're out of it, but if they don't think they're out of it, then.
But that second slot is still one game. Yeah. Right? I mean, if you're the Dodgers, are you trading for the guy you're going to give the ball to in that one game? Or is Clayton Kershaw going to pitch that one game? I mean,
it depends if you have to fight down to the last day to get there. I mean, you're right when you say, would you give up a ton for a one-game chance? That one game is the game the Giants won last year and went on to win the World Series. Right?
I would, personally, because I think when you look back, you know, Steven Strasburg, would that have made a difference in the Washington Nationals a couple years ago when they decided to shut him down?
Would they go back and redo that? Absolutely.
Yes. And you remember ours, 1993. We had a chance to trade the land to get Randy Johnson, and they wouldn't trade one of our top prospect. I even forget who it is right now. But, you know, we thought of, okay, wait, we have Schill, we have Terry Mulholland, Danny Jackson. You know, we get Randy Johnson. We win it all.
Game over.
It's over.
Yeah.
We knew that, and that was demoralizing. That was demoralizing to us as a team, knowing that, you know, we had a chance to get arguably the best pitcher in baseball, and they didn't pull the trigger.
You got to believe the Dodgers are going to do something, and it's probably a starting pitcher, I would think.
Well, it doesn't mean that they might not just do one thing.
Turner lines out, and the inning is over. The Grandal home run makes it 6-1 Dodgers at the end of 3 on a beautiful evening here in Southern California. Top of the fourth at Dodger Stadium. Dodgers up 6-1 on the Giants as Brett Anderson drops a curveball in for a strike to Buster Posey. Posey grounding out his first time up. Starting at first base tonight. 13th time this year he has started at first. 49 starts behind the plate. Kind of a partial day off, if you will, every now and again for Posey.
Yeah, he said it's more not so much a physical break, it's more of a mental break from having to run the pitching staff. He said although he still works with Andrew Susek and the pitchers, the days when he's not catching and playing first base, he said it's more of a mental break that he really enjoys.
Look at that.
Big numbers big offensive numbers as a first baseman, although the splits this year aren't nearly that significant. They were bigger in prior years.
Oof. It's a batting title over a season.
Yeah, all he's done is win Rookie of the Year, MVP, Comeback Player of the Year, batting title, and 3 World Championships.
It's kind of good. In what, 5 years?
Yep.
Right center. Peterson as Puig peels off. One down. Hunter Pence, left wrist in a splint. Tendinitis is what they're calling it. He's played in only 18 games this year. In many ways, he is the heartbeat and the energy of this team. And a guy who, until this year, Crucky, I mean, you could pencil him in for 162 every year.
Yeah, that's, it's a huge loss. But it's like he said, when I talked to him this afternoon, he said, this is killing him. He said, all I can do is run and lift. He said, it's like the off season all over again.
And it doesn't sound like he's going to be back in a week or two. It sounds like a little bit longer than that.
He was getting after it today on the field real early today, and something to be said. I'd love to say I was one of those guys, but I wasn't. He's hurt. He's with them every day, and I guarantee you he's having an influence down there every day. This is some guys kind of do the eyewash stuff. He's working his tail off today.
He did sprints. We sat here probably about 10 minutes worth of this, and then can't use the left wrist, but he can still keep the right arm loose. So he was doing a lot of throwing out there today, and it was hot today.
Well, and that's the thing. You understand when you're on the disabled list that you're better off doing what you have to do and being quiet and
out of the way.
Out of the way. And Hunter Pence has been that way, but when you miss that energy guy and what he brings to the team, and it's like Bruce Bochy said when the Giants signed him to a long-term deal. He was asked by someone about, why would you do that with Hunter Pence? He said, there's something about a guy who plays every day and brings that same energy every single day that it rubs off on the rest of the guys. We need him worse than we need almost anyone on this team.
And I would tell you, especially younger players, a leader is a leader. Doesn't matter what your batting average is, when you're playing or when you're hurt on the D. If you're a leader, that's 24/7, and he's one of the. I'm assuming one of the leaders down there, and hurt or not, he still has a job to do.
Anderson working quickly. Breaking ball jams Crawford. Slow roller to second, and in time to get him 2 down. Here's a look at what's coming up this week on ESPN on the MLB calendar. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Baseball, presented by USAA at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. It'll be the White Sox and the Twins. The Dodgers at Wrigley Wednesday night on ESPN2. And then 1 week from tonight, we'll see the Cubs in St. Louis. Baseball tonight begins at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. The Cardinals actually lost a game today. The Phillies beat them, but the Cardinals still have the best record in all of baseball, 45-24, and a 6-game lead on the Pirates, who were blown out today by Washington. The Cubs won today, so they pick up a game on both of the teams ahead of them. There's a liner into right center field. This ball is down and will get all the way to the wall. Justin Maxwell is on his way to second. Justin Maxwell's on his way to third. Oh boy. And he is out of the baseline. There were all kinds of things going on that were not textbook on that play by both teams. We'll have some fun showing this to you when we come back. Maxwell, a double out, trying to stretch it to 3. out to win the inning between innings. Buster Olney with Bruce Bochy.
Bruce, we just saw Maxwell thrown out. Do you have any feel for what happened on that play?
No, I don't. I haven't had a chance to talk to him. It looks like he lost the ball out there. He thought he had third easy, then realized there was a shot and he stopped. 2 outs. Yeah, you're down 4. 5 runs. It's unlike him, so I was surprised.
What did you see in Lincecum tonight?
Yeah, he just had trouble with his command. I think the first inning caught up with him. He got 2 early outs, a 2-out walk turned that into a stressful inning. And then he couldn't execute his pitches, especially with 2 strikes. Even with the pitcher bunting, he hung a breaking ball to let him bunt a ball there. And pitches, I think, caught up with him today.
Coach, thanks.
So not a lot going right for the Giants tonight. They're down 6-1 as the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 4th. Adrian Gonzalez leads it off. He's 2 for 2. Did he get it all? Did he get enough? Yes, he did. I think he's out of the slump.
I think he's starting to figure it out. Yeah. We talked about it. A base hit his first at bat up the middle. A base hit his second at bat the other way. You knew that once he started feeling this good about himself, the power would come back, and that's just a hanging, looked like a hanging changeup by Yasmero Petit. And I mean, that's just that you just light up when you see one of those up there, and you recognize it.
7-1 Dodgers. Their second home run of the game. Gonzalez came in 6 for his last 54. He's 3 for 3 tonight. Howie Kendrick 1 for 2. Meanwhile, if you're Yusmeiro Petit, whether you're pitching well or pitching not as well as you would like, you know what your assignment is tonight. And that's give Bruce Bochy as many outs as you can so he doesn't have to burn the entire pen. Playable and right for Maxwell. 1 down.
Well, you know, Pedro Martinez said it out loud, and it resonated. I didn't know it before. Excuse me. You don't get great hitters out in the strike zone. Most balls are strikes, and he didn't. Crucky, what the thing that I'm getting is those first 2 he didn't try to do too much. He took what he gave him. That last one, that was kind of like.
Yeah, I'm feeling really good.
The eyes lit up right there as that ball's coming in.
I'm starting to feel really good, and you're lucky you're leaving town.
Yeah.
Because once he gets hot, he could. I mean, that's a guy right there that when he gets it going like this, he can stay like this for a long time.
His hot is about as hot as anybody.
Well, the thing that a lot of people don't understand is this is no different than the rest of life. When you go to work feeling good about yourself, you do good things. You can't make yourself feel good. You can't be happy going 6 for 59, no matter what anybody says.
Well, you'd hope not.
No. Well, yeah, you better not.
Alex Guerrero, the batter, a strikeout and a fly ball.
But that's what happens when you're struggling like Adrian was struggling, and all you're trying to do is keep the ball in the center of the field or the other way.
This ball's lined hard to left, but Belt is there to make the catch. 2 down. Let's go back to the last half inning, and you always hear you never want to make the first or last out of the inning at third base. And as Bruce Bochy said to Buster, plus you're down 4 runs and or 5 runs at the time. I'm sorry. Take us through this play.
Well, it's a great play by Puig, a great relay to Howie Kendrick. But look at Howie Kendrick. He's not going. Why should he go? He doesn't have no chance of making third. Well, Maxwell compounded Howie Kendrick not being prepared to throw to third by stopping and allowing him to throw it to Turner and getting that easy out. So, you know, but that's a play, Maxwell, you shut it down. With 2 outs, you shut it down after you hit second base.
It's 6-1.
You shut it down.
Well, and so for young base runners, let me ask you this, Crocky. The ball's to his right. It's in the right center field gap. You're picking up the third base coach right there, right?
Well, no, you don't have to because the ball's in front of you in right center. I mean, he took off. He had his head down running. I mean, you see him right there. He's watching the play. He looks over at Roberto Kelly, the third base coach, and I'm sure Roberto wasn't telling him to go because, and I get this all the time from people. Oh, well, he's trying to make something happen. You already did. You hit a double.
Well, from Roberto Kelly, the look on his face, it sure doesn't look like Roberto Kelly was telling him to go to third.
No. But, I'm trying to make things happen. You did. You hit a double.
You can't do that in a 6-1 game.
No.
But young players, now for me, you just can't do it twice. You made the mistake. Lesson learned.
Grandal, a bunt single and a home run in this game. And maybe another. 2 home runs on the night for Yasmani Grandal.
Another pitch, a breaking ball by Yasmero Petit that just hangs in the center of the plate. No bite to it, no depth to it. I mean, look where Grandal catches this ball. He catches it out in front,
he got under
about
a little bit.
thigh high.
Yeah.
But because he caught it out in front and the ball was elevated, yeah, you can get under that one and lift it out of here.
So the beat goes on for the Dodgers. 3 home runs in the game, an 8-1 lead. Jimmy Rollins is 2 for 2.
Well, a lot of good things. Don Mattingly's way tonight. Adrian Gonzalez out of his slump. The home run, the power's coming. Jimmy Rollins with 2 more hits after having 2 yesterday.
Tonight, our live K-Zone is brought to you by AutoZone. When you guys talked before as former players, they get on a plane tonight, and they fly for 4 hours through the middle of the night to Chicago to start a 10-game road trip. About the psychology of getaway day and the long flight. If you lose the last game, if you've been struggling as a team. This ball is hooked down the right field line, and it's off the wall on a bounce. Rollins digging for second, and in there. This game coming into it had the feel of more than just 1 out of 162 for the Dodgers.
Well, Donnie Mattingly told us that. He said it's not a must-win, but it's a necessary win, and they're taking care of necessary. But you're right. You get on a plane after this one, and, the good times are rolling right now for the Dodgers. And those first 2 games of the series, they're forgotten about.
It's one of those things that you kind of have to be in it to understand it. But getaway day, travel day in the big leagues can be a very big thing. In years when you struggle, you end up losing most of your getaway day games. In other years, you win them. And when you win them and you're in a good mood, you get in at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody really cares. Everybody's having fun. When you lose, it's quiet. People are bitter.
4 o'clock's a lot later earlier in the morning when you lose. If that makes sense.
That's some of your West Virginia logic that fits.
Yeah.
3-city, 3-time zone, 10-game, 10-day road trip for the Dodgers starting tomorrow at Wrigley. You can see the Dodgers and Cubs Wednesday night on ESPN2.
I looked at that schedule and said, yeah, this will work.
Well, the thing about it, though, if you look at the way they go and do it, it's Chicago to Miami to Arizona and back.
Right.
It's still a
big trip.
Crappy trip.
Yeah. Listen, both of you guys played on the East Coast. Both of you played for teams in Western divisions as well. The travel's a lot different when you play for a Western division, right?
Yeah.
Anderson strikes out to end the inning. 2 home runs in the inning, though. Adrian Gonzalez, his 3rd hit of the night, his 12th home run of the season. Yasmani Grandal, his 3rd hit of the night, his 2nd home run of the game. And it's the Dodgers in a romp at the end of 4. Los Angeles between innings. Buster Olney with a guy who's got to be pretty happy right now, Don Mattingly.
And you guys have been struggling offensively tonight. 13 hits, 8 runs, 3 home runs in the first 4 innings. What's this like for you?
Well, it feels pretty good, but we talked about the Giants earlier. They're not going to quit playing. So hopefully this is a breakout game for us. We've been swinging the bats a little bit the last few days. So hopefully this was just something that was coming.
Specifically, what have you seen in Adrian Gonzalez tonight that's different?
Not a whole lot different. Besides he's getting hits, he always looks good at the plate. He's always pretty smooth. And with guys that are that good, it's kind of like you can never really tell if they're going bad. And so it's just a matter of him kind of getting that one little thing, getting that feel back.
Don, thanks.
Well, Don Mattingly would never say it, but he was one of those guys who was that good.
Yes.
Who, even when he was going bad, looked like he was going good.
Yeah, it was. Well.
There's a bouncer down to Gonzalez, and he'll make the play himself. Belt is retired.
I would love to say, like, I thought he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. If back and stayed healthy, it would have been. It was an honor to face him. It wasn't. I faced him twice, and he hit 2 home runs that still haven't landed. I don't think.
You only faced him twice, and he homered off you both times.
2.
Really?
Yeah. Stanton-like shots.
Don't be afraid to throw another pitch.
I didn't really have one then.
6-time All-Star. 9 Gold Glove award. People never talk about his defense. He was as good as it got there.
Unbelievable defender.
The most valuable player in the American League in 1985. The batting champion in 1984. In 1986, had 238 hits, 53 doubles.
That's all right.
Second in MVP balloting that year. 1987, tied a major league record by homering in 8 consecutive games. And also set a major league record. He hit 6 grand slams in 1987.
But he was a legitimate lock, no doubt, first ballot Hall of Famer if he had stayed healthy. I remember at the end of his career, his back was really bad. But he had that real funky stance where he kind of crouched. But I always said guys like him were shortstops playing first base. They were that athletic. And I think still to this day, by far the most underrated defensive position. Because when you have a good one, they stand out. And he was just unbelievable.
Yeah, Donnie had that crouch and coil approach.
Yeah, and unlock.
Start that crouch, and all of a sudden coil that front shoulder.
Good throw by Rollins from the outfield grass. 2 down. Time now for our high strength performance brought to you by Chevy Silverado. And the Dodgers have been flexing their muscles as Tim Lincecum got some pitches up here tonight. Left some over the middle of the plate, and Yusmeiro Petit hasn't had any more success.
No, but you look at those pitches.
You can't.
You're doing what big league hitters should do to those pitches.
Right, and if you're going to throw the ball up in a strike zone, it better have a 9 first and about a 5 or a 6 second.
There's a liner to second. Petit retired, and the inning is over. Giants go in order. Dodgers right back up to the plate. Top of the order coming up. The rivalry began, of course, on the other coast. The New York Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers, they took it west to San Francisco and Los Angeles. And now they're battling here tonight, battling for first place in the National League West. The Dodgers are a half game up on the Giants for top spot, despite losing the first 2 games of the series to San Francisco. And I don't think it would surprise anybody if these 2 teams took it right down to the wire to try to settle this division. Yasiel Puig up for the 4th time. He's 1 for 3, had a 2-run single back in the 2nd.
What do you do if you're tied going into the last day of the season for the division, and Kershaw and Bumgarner were both ready to go?
Well, you don't want a one-game playoff. You want to win the division.
And you know the loser still gets a wild card.
Yes.
You try to win the division?
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
I don't know.
I mean, if you're the Dodgers, you got Greinke.
It seemed to work pretty well last year for the...
I've asked managers that question, and they all say they would try to win the division. And you guys were talking about the wild card success. How about the Royals? They took the same path as the Giants through the wild card game into the World Series.
Is San Diego going to be a player in this division, you think?
Lost again today, so they are 34-38 at the moment. They are, because the Dodgers haven't been playing well lately, San Diego, as poorly as their season has gone, they're only 5.5 games out of first base.
I don't think Arizona or Colorado's in the mix, but are these 3 teams legitimate contenders, or anybody faking us right now?
I think these 2 teams are.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the 2 teams that made the most noise in the offseason, San Diego, Kemp, Will Myers, the Uptons, Kimbrel, Shields, and then you look at the Boston Red Sox, and neither team is playing anywhere near what everyone thought. I mean, just because you make deals doesn't make you better.
2 years ago, the Blue Jays did more than anybody. They didn't have a good year. 3 years ago, the Marlins did more than anybody. They didn't have it.
Well, they undid it in about 6 months.
Yeah, they undid it to the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
I'll add another one, guys. How about the White Sox?
Yeah,
during
that's
the
true.
offseason,
Yeah, they did a ton.
coming in this year.
Sky to shallow right. 1 down. It's time to vote for your All-Stars with the 2015 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot for this season's All-Star Game. Vote at MLB.com/vote. Then watch the excitement of the All-Star Game on July the 14th. And that obviously leads us into this area.
Oh, boy.
How many Royals does it take to start an All-Star Game? Right now, 8 of the 9 spots in the American League are occupied by Kansas City. We know that Royals fans have gotten out in earnest and are voting for their players, including Omar Infante, who is leading at second base, when I think even family members would admit that Omar Infante should not be starting the All-Star Game at second base. They got a lot of good players, like a lot of really good players, but they don't have 8 guys who should be starting at second base. So is it the system that's broken? If you guys were to wave a magic wand, and it's not going to do anything this year, but next year and beyond, what would you do?
I personally think that whoever the manager is for respective leagues, and the coaching staff and the president of their respective leagues ought to say, okay, we're going to pick who we want to start, and I think the fans should get to pick who they want to be in reserve.
Right. So the fans can vote for guys who get to be All-Stars but don't necessarily get to start.
Yes.
100% agree.
I don't think you'd have fewer people showing up for that, because I think you'd have 18 All-Stars on the field at the beginning of the game. But what's the argument every year? This happens every year.
Turner drives the ball to deep center. Another home run for the Dodgers. You know, if he's not careful, he might find himself in Cincinnati.
Well, he should.
His 3rd home run in as many games in this series.
This is a power swing by Justin Turner. You watch how high the leg kick comes up. Scott Van Slyke has the same thing. Jock Peterson, the big leg kick, and that just gets that weight back on that backside. And once that foot comes down, there's a lot of force coming through that swing. And that's a ball to dead center in this ballpark that he knew was out when he hit it.
That's a bomb.
Yeah, he should be in Cincinnati.
But back to, I mean, every year we hear this, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys from the home team get voted in and yada yada, complaints, this and that. Is the All-Star game for the fans, or is it to determine home field advantage for the World Series?
Well, they're trying to make it both.
Right.
Well,
but
you can't.
You can't
serve
be all
both
things
of
to all
those.
people.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But nothing's going to change unless. And Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, has said he's open to taking a look at things, but nothing's going to change between now and the 14th of July this year. We're talking about next year and beyond, where things could change.
Didn't they just take away what?
60 million votes. Yes, baseball removes 60 million votes, and I think the reason, Buster, I don't know if you can help me on this, is because they can tell through IP addresses, and nobody knows less about technology than me, but they can tell through IP addresses that people are just the same people are making multiple email addresses and voting over and over and over and over again. So, but they have to love the participation. Even with the 60 million thrown out, there have still been over 300 million votes cast, and that's great for the sport. But this is not the objective. I mean, it's even extended, and Nori Aoki's having a great year, like a great year. But he's a former Royal. And don't think that some Royals fans haven't voted for Aoki, who just passed Giancarlo Stanton for the 3rd spot for the National League outfielder starting spot.
Similar players.
Having similar years.
Aoki's having a great.
He's having a great year.
Yeah, no, and that's the tough thing is. What the thing that will never ever fail every year, somebody will get quote unquote cheated by being left off, and somebody will be there that shouldn't be. The only rule I would change: every team shouldn't have to have a rep.
But then again, see, if it means home field in the World Series, which I don't think any of the three of us agree with, but if it does mean, it doesn't bother you. But if it's for the fans, as the waves going around Dodger Stadium, if it's for the fans, shouldn't every team be represented? Don't the folks in Milwaukee?
No. Well, here.
You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, but I don't think that there are fans that, because a lot of times when that player gets picked who isn't picked, he's that 30th team. It's a guy that shouldn't be at the All-Star game anyway, but he is there to wear the uniform.
Okay, in the late 70s, you and I are the same age. In the late 70s, who are you rooting for? What team were you rooting for? Pirates. All right, so good. You had Parker Stargell. You didn't have to work. Right. You were good. Right. So once again, Crucky, thinking only of himself.
Right.
So, but if you were rooting for a team that wasn't that good in the late 70s, it might have mattered to you.
Who were you rooting for?
I grew up in Toronto. So if a Damaso Garcia or a Roy Howell went to the All-Star game as a 10-year-old kid, it mattered to me.
Parents.
That's not my parents. It's Father's Day. Be nice. Leave my dad out of this.
But, you know, you talk about if you're a bad team, like if you're a bad team, do you think your fans are going to want to watch one of your players play in the All-Star game?
I do.
I disagree.
If you're a kid,
they're smarter.
I think so.
No. Dan, I second everything you just said.
Well, that's because Buster's saying dumb things again. If you're a Kansas City Royal fan of the 70s, you're going to watch the All-Star game because Freddie Patek? No.
I disagree.
Okay. We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I guess because you guys stood on the lines, you have a different perspective. I was excited to see my favorite team's players there.
No. Yeah, you're just being a dork.
Inning is over. Justin Turner trying to tell people, hey, don't forget about me when you start casting your ballots for Cincinnati. His 3rd home run in as many games. His 9th of the season, and the Dodgers in a rout. Major League Baseball feature a local Little League program as part of our Sunday night coverage. Tonight, we welcome South Pasadena Little League, founded in 1952. It is the oldest chartered Little League in California. And here they are enjoying the game at Chavez Ravine tonight. A couple of notable alums from this Little League, Jock Peterson and Adriana Gonzalez. We go to the 6th inning. The Dodgers up 10-1. Before the game, the gang from the South Pasadena Little League had a chance to spend some time in the field with some Major League players, as the Little League team of choice does every week. Think these kids are having any fun?
Oh, boy.
Wow.
If they only knew how great Donnie Mattingly was.
Jimmy Rollins. Saw Andre Ethier spending some time with him before the game. You know, one thing we've seen, because we're sitting up here in the booth as Nicole is doing the interview with the players, or as the Major League players are with the kids, the big leaguers are having almost as much fun as the little leaguers when they're talking to those kids.
I don't know about you. I think we always remember what being on the other side was like. I can't imagine. I never got to do that. I can't even imagine at that age.
But, you know, it's like, would you ever have the nerve to ask, like, you're a Pirates fan, going on the field and having Dave Parker, Willie Stargell, and have not only have the nerve to talk to him, to actually ask him a question?
No.
There's no way.
I met Willie Stargell as a grown adult after pitching a big league game and couldn't speak. I was like, oh my. And it's Pops.
Anderson off the mound. Throws out Pagan.
You can tell that ankle's not right.
It hurts.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Stumbled again.
I mean, for being such a great athlete, obviously because he's a pitcher.
Yeah, you can
he
tell
didn't
by
break
the
something
footwork.
there. No, it's probably sore.
Got hit by a comeback earlier in the game.
And I wonder if, you know, I don't want to say reputation, but he's been hurt a lot. And a guy that battling injuries like he has been, I would imagine he's doing everything he can do to stay on the field right now.
You know, when he came up with Oakland before all the injuries started, it looked like he was headed for big things.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was going to be one of the best.
Yeah.
Best left-handed pitchers in baseball till he retired. Like you said, though, Dan, injuries and.
Tommy John, herniated disc, broken bone in his hand, broken bone in his foot. So the Dodgers signed him to a one-year deal. A lot of incentives in that deal. Could top out at about $10 million if he's healthy through the entire season. And so far, so good.
Well, I mean, in the first, I got to tell you, Dan, in the first time in our relationship that you've ever been right and I'm wrong, and Twitter's blowing up.
About what? Which aspect?
The fans want to see one of their players in the All-Star game.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Never looked. Yep, you're right. Well, Buster's not right, but you're right. I totally. I mean,
maybe not everybody feels that way.
But you know, when you start thinking about it, people from New York want to see a Yankee or a Met, which, you know, for me almost was never a problem. But
right. I'm talking about the teams who wouldn't have somebody there if there was no rule stipulating that every team.
And looking at it from the other side, you know, I'll give a great example. Who's going from Philly this year? Who's going from Milwaukee?
I mean, Philly, Papelbon's probably having the best year.
Yeah.
So if you're a Phillies fan, are you going to turn in to maybe watch him pitch just to see him?
Panic grounds out. Extraordinary moments happen every night in baseball, but on one night in July, they all happen in one place. Right on topic. Don't miss this season's 86th All-Star Game. Tuesday, July 14th on Fox. Home Run Derby coming up the night before in Cincinnati. Good news, Giancarlo Stanton said this week, if he is asked, he will compete. I suspect he will be asked.
I would think there's a chance that whoever's the captain will ask, we'll ask him.
Well, Todd Frazier's going to be in on that too somehow, right?
I think that's going to be much like McGuire and Fenway. You put Stanton in Cincinnati, and he's going to make the park look like a women's fast pitch softball field. Those are fun to watch because.
See, I think there should be a point system in the Home Run Derby. If you go the other way, you get 5 points. If you get it to dead center, you get 5. You pull it, everyone can pull a homer.
Well,
in batting practice. Let's see if you can go the other way in one. That way, if a guy's behind by a lot, he can try to shoot everything the other way and catch up.
Well, what about if you can do this? What about if you can hit a ball where hardly anybody has ever hit a ball?
Goodness.
To hit a ball out of this stadium, like over the bleachers and out, that's a rare feat. Your guy Willie Stargell did it a couple of times to right field.
Right, Bob's.
He had a chair at the vet too, painted.
Yeah.
Gold.
Yeah.
Huge in the upper tank.
Well, but I've never seen that. I've never even seen it in batting practice. Somebody hit that ball that way. Farthest ball I ever saw hit that way was Piazza. But I've never seen anybody hit a ball that far left.
Grandal out to the mound to talk with Anderson.
One of the other things I love about baseball, Stan Stanton next to Jock Peterson. Look at them physically. Obviously both are great teams, but they're physically couldn't be more different. Yeah. And they both are hitting the ball farther than anybody in the big leagues. That's when you realize it's about range of motion, flexibility, translates to power in baseball.
Ground ball right to Gonzalez. And another 3-up, 3-down inning for Anderson. Grandal's homered twice. He's due up second when we come back. Field for Angel Pagan. Casey McGee is at first. Buster Posey is out of the game. The new pitcher for the Giants is right-hander Michael Broadway. Broadway, 28 years of age, from Paducah, Kentucky, signed as a minor league free agent in January by the Giants. Spent 11 years in the minors before making his major league debut this year. First pitch swinging. Alex Guerrero flies out to center. One down. Yasmani Grandal coming up. That's what he did in the third inning. And this is what he did in the fourth. Our True Value, our value player, brought to you by True Value. Yasmani Grandal, 3 for 3, a bunt single and a couple of home runs as he stands in against Broadway.
the couple pitches I've seen Broadway throw, does he have a little Derek Lowe in him the way he finishes?
Well, look at the and you look at the tail. that fastball tail has got the that right there. The leg, it's legs. You can see the legs. The way
bottom half is Derek Lowe.
Yep. Now, take that left to right break on the ball and move it down. That was how much Derek Lowe's sinker sank. Watch the glove.
Nice play by Panic. 2 down. So Grandal does not hit his 3rd home run of the game tonight. We did have somebody hit 3 home runs in the game earlier today. J.D. Martinez, as the Tigers routed the Yankees. He drove in 6. Victor Martinez, by the way, also homered in that game. Bryce Harper hit his 24th of the season. 9 runs in the first for the Nationals off Charlie Morton in a lopsided win over the Pirates. And Mookie Betts doubled, tripled, homered as the Red Sox routed the Royals. There were some blowouts today, and there's a blowout here tonight. Thanks in part to that guy.
Maybe the hitting's starting to catch up.
Getting a little warmer.
Except for Scherzer.
Yeah, unless you're facing Scherzer.
I don't think the hitting catches up to that.
Jimmy Rollins 3 for 3. Pinch hitters out of the on-deck circle for Brett Anderson. Little jam shot and a sliding catch by Blanco. And the inning is over. 3 up and 3 down to go the Dodgers. End of 6. 10-1 for the home side. Only Sunday night baseball presented by Taco Bell. The Dodgers have hit 4 home runs. They lead 10-1 going to the 7th inning. And after 6 good innings from Brett Anderson, Don Mattingly goes to left-hander Daniel Coulombe, 25 years of age from St. Louis, his 4th stint with the Dodgers this year. And just his 4th appearance. The Dodgers have a number of relievers on the DL, many of whom may be back in the next week or two. But for the moment, at least, Coulombe finds himself in the big leagues. And he'll face Casey McGee, who came on defensively an inning ago for Buster Posey, then Brandon Crawford and Justin Maxwell. McGee began the year as the starting third baseman for the Giants. Didn't hit much at all. Matt Duffy ended up taking over. McGee was designated for assignment, wound up down in the minors, recalled, and now is back as kind of a utility guy and pinch hitter for the Giants. Thing you see on this Giants team, and maybe you see it in other places too, but you seem to see it a lot on this team. And Buster, I know you like the story. McGee lost his job to Duffy, but he's still helping Duffy out.
Yeah, it's a very Giants-like story. Duffy told me that when Casey McGee was designated for assignment, the way that he found out was from Casey McGee, who pulled him into his side room and said, look, this is what's happening. And I had a similar thing happen to me when I was a young player, where I got an opportunity because Bill Hall, a veteran in Milwaukee, had been designated for assignment. And he told Duffy, look, I let it bother me for a couple months. This shouldn't bother you, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen to you. And then McGee came back, and he continues to work with him on his defense at third base. That's the culture of this team.
You guys say that culture, if you have to give credit to one person, you got to start with Bruce Bochy, right?
Well, I think so, and I think that speaks volumes to guys. When you win a ring, you realize what you do it all for. You realize that, hey, listen, the accolades, all the stuff, that's great, but putting that ring on is what you play for, and it changes your approach. And I think Bochy's got his whole clubhouse to understand, listen, guys, doesn't matter how it happens, let's just put a ring on opening day next year.
That's fair ball. One down.
I just don't think if you're a guy like Casey McGee, or when you can throw Barry Zito off your roster, or not throw him up and not putting him on a roster, Pablo Sandoval, move Tim Lincecum, a two-time Cy Young Award winner, to bullpen, you have no reason to complain. You can't complain by the decisions he makes. They make as an organization because they win.
Well, he's going to have some decisions to make. They're going to have some decisions to make in the next couple of weeks, because Jake Peavy and Matt Cain are both coming back from the disabled list, and they already have 5 starters right now, including Lincecum, who we saw tonight, Ryan Vogelsong, who did not begin the year in the rotation, Chris Heston, the rookie, who's come up and thrown a no-hitter this year. Madison Bumgarner's not going anywhere, but how do you fit 7 pitchers into Tim Hudson's the other guy in the rotation?
You won't have to. We always have this happen, and you always see how it plays out somehow. And you end up having 4 for 5 spots, not 7 for 5. And if they do, they figure it's a good problem to have. You got some guys, maybe you build some rest in so they're ready to go in September and October. Because that's the guy getting the ball in October.
Yeah, he'll probably stick in the rotation, just going out on a limb.
Yeah, he could flop back and forth to the pen too.
He's a horse.
Legitimately, physically a horse, like Clydesdale.
Yeah.
He is huge.
He's a big guy.
Oh my goodness.
That's country strong.
Like those commercials he does where he's chopping down a tree. Right, that's beautiful.
Well, that's not like a commercial. They're just taking footage of him at home.
Yeah, it's home. That's home video.
I would imagine there's a bull he's wrestling at some point too.
Crawford will take a walk.
You guys were.
Well, last year you could make a case, and Shill, you're better qualified to speak about this because you had a couple of incredible Octobers as well, but you can make a case this guy did as much in October as any pitcher's ever done.
That was as fun as anything I've ever watched. That relief appearance and what he did and how he did it. And the country thing, it was all genuine. Yeah. That's who he is. And you listen to his teammates talk about him. That was special. I mean, that's a postseason that'll be remembered 100 years from now, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, he's a big boy, just like Kershaw. Kershaw's a monster too.
Yeah, remember we were doing segments for baseball tonight prior to Game 7, wondering if Bumgarner was going to pitch.
Yeah. Would he come in and throw 8 2/3?
Yeah. Do you think he'll pitch in this game tonight if he's needed?
What was it, 5 innings?
5 innings.
Yeah. Probably had a couple more in him if they needed.
Oh, he did. Yeah. He didn't have a stopping point that night.
And the arm's still attached. He's pitching well this year. It's sometimes you got to, you know which horse to push.
Well, I got to believe his contract, because, you know, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but our contracts have a lot of small fine print. You're not allowed to do A, B, C, or D. And A, B, C, or D is like ride a motorcycle, jump out of an airplane, like anything like that. And I think like riding horses and all. I got to believe he probably said, hey, listen, here's how this is going to work. I'll be your number one, but I'm going to ride my horse. I'm going to rope my cattle. I'm going to do my thing in the offseason.
But I'll throw 52 and a third in October for you.
Exactly.
52 and a third innings in October.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Starting with a wild card game against Pittsburgh. Maxwell goes around 2 down.
It's not. That's not even the thing that blows. I mean, that's a lot. 52 innings in a month is a lot. Okay. 52 of the highest leverage innings you can throw. That's where. And look at the numbers. It wasn't that he threw 52 innings. He dominated the best lineups in the game, in the biggest games of the year, over and over again. And that's what made it so incredibly fun to watch.
Here's Brandon Bell to walk at a ground out.
I couldn't ice skate. I had that in my thing. I wasn't allowed to ice skate.
Yeah, I don't know that.
It really bothered me, Dan.
Still keeping you up at night? Yeah, we'll take you out. We'll take you now.
You know, it was either baseball or, you know, the Olympics. Figure skating.
Figure skating. I thought hockey maybe.
Isn't round a figure or circle? Or
You'd have been awesome on skates.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Once.
1-1 the count on Bell.
Ice skate. I don't ice skate. What?
No, you don't.
Why would they put that in there?
Well, because I think a lot of those are for guys in the off season when they go and have a couple to drink. You might have put on a pair of skates or some of your buddies. I can see your buddies daring you to do it. Absolutely.
Well, guys, you remember when Mike Messina had his $88 million contract with the Yankees held up because they were arguing over when and if Mike Messina could play basketball in the offseason. They agreed he could play up until January 1st, and that was the impasse.
Things we argue over.
Hey, but these guys are big investments these days.
Oh, yeah, you get it. I mean, I'll tell you what, I had a conversation, and this is for a lot of young pitchers out there. I had a conversation early in my career with Tom Seaver. He talked about early in his career, he was told, from this day forward, you don't cut your grass, you don't open the door, you don't pet a dog, you don't do anything for the rest of your baseball career with your right hand. And he's like, well, it's a little overkill, isn't it? After I retired, I can't tell you how many times I mangled my throwing hand. Just like getting it cut, getting it bit, whatever. But when I played, I never, ever used it to do anything. And I remember Bobby O'Heed had the accident, trimming his hedges. He cut a fence, but like he was serious. And a lot of the guys, that's the way you do it.
Divas.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, come on. We played every day. We couldn't use either hand. What we had to have someone feed us. And
swung on and missed. Coulomb with a couple of strikeouts in the top of the 7th. We'll see Puig. We'll see Jock Peterson when the Dodgers come up in the bottom half. Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. And the bat is up to the moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. At MLB.com at bat now. Bottom of 7 at Dodger Stadium. 4 home runs for the Dodgers tonight. 2 for Yasmani Grandal, 1 for Adrian Gonzalez, 1 for Justin Turner. And as we go to the bottom of the 7th, Michael Broadway out for his 2nd inning of work, and Daniel Coulombe will get an at-bat, his first career major league at-bat.
Takes a pitch well.
Looks athletic.
But you're not up there to, you're up there hacking.
Oh, yeah.
If this is your,
if it's close, man, you're letting it. Look at, he's got a little smile. Yeah. Like, what am I doing here? Don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me, swing.
Yeah, that's pretty close to exactly what was going. Yeah. Please don't drill me. Please don't drill me. Please don't drill me. Strike.
Should have swung at that.
I realized I should start my swing about right here if I want to try and pull the ball.
And guys, he never batted in the minor leagues either.
Wow.
I wonder who's batting.
Yeah, it's not his.
Yeah. No. And no one voluntarily let him use a bat. No. I promise you that. Because no one's expecting that bat to come back to the dugout as it left the dugout.
I did that once. Unbelievable. Gave a pitcher a bat.
Yeah, not a good thing. You swung a club, though.
You got a hit, too.
I was trying to use your bats. Yours were too big.
And he takes strike 3 right down the middle.
He's just tracking right now. He's just tracking pitches. He's going to get there.
Now, the problem is in pitcher's BP tomorrow, he's going to be ragged unmercifully.
Oh, you see, and Scott Van Slyke down there said something to
Mattingly's saying, listen, dude, if I'm going to send you up there, swing the bat.
You might hear from a bunch of them as he makes his way down the dugout.
Yep.
Thanks for the bat.
Yeah. And now some guys will try and make him feel good about himself.
Maybe he's just a polite kid, and whoever gave him the bat said, look, you can use it, but you better not break it.
Right.
You're like, well, if I don't swing, I ain't going to break it.
Or you can use it, but just don't swing it.
Still new.
Yeah, it has no number on it either, so that's probably that's really bad wood.
Here's a guy who won't be shy.
I don't think his swing changes up 10-1.
A couple of hits and a couple of RBIs tonight.
But what he just did right there, you can see why things he does bothers other teams. 10-1, he swings hard, misses, and he walks around pouting and like not pouting, but acting like he was, you know, really down and sad because he swung and didn't get it. Yeah, it's 10-1.
Get in the box.
Guerrero last inning flew out to center field, and he didn't even get a third of the way to first base and peeled off. And I don't.
It's not that I don't understand that. You're playing for a guy who never did that. Don Mattingly played the game hard every single at-bat inning of his entire career, and that's got to kind of. And Mark McGwire, I mean, that's got to kind of.
Tim Wallach. Yeah, but you know, you're trying to get playing time. You're trying to prove to your manager I can play, and that's not doing it to me.
Tell you what, Dan, I was thinking, I pitched the game where we scored 10 runs one night, and I only went 5 innings, and we won 10-5, and I was upset after the game. And it was kind of the first time Crucky ever kind of sat me down to educate me on some things. And I say it because it was one of the most probably pivotal games of my career from a learning perspective. And he was mad at me. And he said, listen, this is not going to happen again. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, we just won 10-5. I said, yeah, but I pitched, you know. He goes, doesn't matter. We just won 10-5. Right. Winning this division, winning the game, that's the only thing that matters. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I wanted to dominate. I wanted And then all of a sudden you realize we win on the day you pitch.
Yeah.
That's what you get paid to do. Yeah. And it was a very big, like, turning. I'll never forget the conversation.
But there are guys who will go 3 for 4. The team loses, they're happy. They go 0 for 4. The team wins, they're down.
We call those guys are called 2 for 4. What's the score? And every team has them. And I know, Crucky, you can remember some guys we played with.
Yeah, 4-0-2-0.
Yeah.
4 at bats, no runs, 2 hits, no RBIs.
Yeah.
Right. And those guys were smiling, gleeful guys when you lost 8-1.
I got mine. Yep.
So, Crucky, what do you remember of that conversation?
Well, you know, it was what we were trying to accomplish, because you have to remember, before Schill got there, we stunk. I mean, we were bad. And so all we were trying to accomplish was, you know, and Darren Dalton and I and Lenny and you know, we talked about this from day one of spring training. What can we do to help us win the game today? If you're not playing, pinch hit. Get a big pinch hit. If you're pitching, you know, pitch well enough to get us a win. And that's kind of all we really cared about. And when you see a guy, yeah, he struggled through 5 innings, but he got a win. And, you know, you see him and he's like, you know, God, I should have dominated. You did what you were supposed to. You got us a win. You didn't have your best stuff, but we still won the game you pitched. And that's all we cared about.
And the 2 things that forever stayed with me, one was it made the 4 days between a bad start that we won and my next start a lot easier. And it was an incredibly good lesson for me with younger pitchers, because I never looked at it. I thought, you know, I got to go out there. I got to dominate. This is hard. You're playing the best players in the world. You're gonna. And as my career went on, though, I realized there are nights when you're going to go 7, give up non-punch out 14, and get a loss.
So if a young player on this Dodgers team needs that kind of a conversation, team before self, do the Dodgers have the leader to sit that player down and give him that talk?
I don't know. Jimmy Rollins is the only one I can think of, maybe, but I don't. I would say no if you're asking me that question.
Is that a problem?
I would say yes if you're asking me. Yeah, I think it is.
Like, it's not the kind of thing you can say, like, will that cost them wins? You can't look at it sabermetrically and say, but you know what I'm saying?
No.
But will that cost them?
But if I look in that dugout and think of that guy, it's the manager.
Right.
That's what, to me, that was the kind of player he was. Hey, I don't care what you did tonight. We won. So if you're unhappy, you need to figure out how to get happy, because this is about us and not you. But I always pictured him as that kind of guy.
Playing behind the runner, of course, because of the margin in this game right now. Swing and a miss by Peterson. Pretty good company.
Well, and
not bad.
I got to tell you, as a pitcher right here in this situation, this is one of those places where I'm looking to try and do something or set something up for later in the year. This is a divisional opponent. I might see him 5 more times, 6 more times.
That will stay in play, and Peterson is retired for the 2nd out.
Guys, it looks like the Dodgers are going to win this game. And they, of course, the Giants have dominated them this year. Do you think it's important that they won the last game of this series against the Giants specifically?
I think it's important because they're going on the road for a long time, and it makes the trip a lot nicer. But Buster, you were in there when Mattingly was talking to us. You know, he mentioned it. You know, it's still June, so it's not a must-win, but it's an important win, and it's one we think we have to have. You know, the last thing you want to do is not only get swept by your rival, but in the process of getting swept, lose your hold on first place.
Alberto Callaspo batting for Justin Turner. Turner with another home run tonight, and finishes the weekend series 6 for 10 with 3 homers.
Series MVP.
Got to believe he's going to be hitting 3rd at Wrigley Field tomorrow night. To the right side, and the inning is over. 7 in the books at Dodger Stadium. 10-1 Dodgers. Baseball this Father's Day. Join Major League Baseball in the fight against prostate cancer. All 30 teams devoted today to celebrate fathers through the Keep Dad in the Game platform. Major League Baseball wants all fans to be aware of their health issues and is contributing to raise funds for research aimed at battling this disease. Please log on to MLBcommunity.org. To the top of the 8th, Andrew Susak facing Daniel Coulombe. Cayaspo will stay in the game at third base after pinch hitting for Turner, and Scott Van Slyke replaces Adrian Gonzalez at first. The attendance tonight, 53,509.
They got pretty much everything they wanted in this one.
Yep. 4 home runs. Knocked Lincecum out in the second inning. On their way to a win against their number 1 rival. These two teams don't meet again until right at the end of August. This is already the 4th series, the 12th game between these two teams this year. They will meet again August the 31st. This ball's popped back out of play. August the 31st here for a 3-game midweek series, and then they will meet in the last week of the season, a 4-gamer Monday through Thursday in San Francisco.
Amazing how one game can turn you around. Look at that last 4 games. 11 runs, 4 homers tonight, 10-4. Then you need a blowout. The last thing you want to do is have a tight game.
That's a fair ball. And Susak has his second hit of the night, and this one will be a double.
You get some of your starters out there, relaxing right now, watching, getting ready to get on a plane, fly to Chicago.
It's a 162 game schedule. These games are going to happen. It's the win 50, lose 50. What do you do in the other 62? But I always felt like these games in the National League were a bigger deal because you got your bench players a quantity of at bats to keep them fresh.
Like Blanco, his first at bat of the night. First pitch swinging and a lazy fly ball to left field for out number 1. College World Series finals begin tomorrow night on ESPN. Defending champion in Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt taking on Virginia, a rematch of last year's finals. Tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, right here on ESPN. King in Omaha doing a great job. Joaquin Arias will pinch hit in the pitcher spot.
You ever been to Omaha?
I've never been to Omaha. Looks like great fun.
Beautiful ballpark.
Yeah. I was there last week.
I've never been to see a game. I just saw the ballpark.
There he is, utility infielder for the Giants. Right center field. Puig racing back. Can't get it. Susak will come in to score on an RBI double by Joaquin Arias, and it's 10-2.
Puig, I mean, giving you pretty much everything you got to try to get that one, but all over his head. Arias gets the RBI. I think the more impressive thing was when you're watching Puig go after this ball. I mean, he took off pretty quick after that ball went all out, and once it got over his head, then it's, you know, get it back in, keep him at second. But I think the more impressive thing, the first guy in the dugout when the runner scored, Hunter Pence.
Foul ball up the third baseline off the bat of Joe Panik.
I still love watching that guy throw the ball from right field. It doesn't matter if it's
Puig.
Yes, yeah. When he's throwing it in from the second or trying to throw it out home, that's a gift.
The assist he got tonight, I think it was 9-4-5. I think the play at third base where Maxwell was throwing. That's actually Puig's first assist of the season. Now he's missed a lot of time, but he had 15 last year.
I think it is because, like, a lot of times, like, Malia doesn't throw a lot of runners out because you don't run on him anymore. Oh yeah, look, yawn. That just carry. Him coming in on a ball and getting it right is something special.
And Slight makes the play unassisted. 2 down, the runner to third.
The best arm in the game right now? Is that him? Right?
I don't know. You seen Stanton's arm?
Yeah, Stanton's got a cannon.
Stanton's got a big arm.
For strength, this guy's right.
Yeah.
The accuracy and the judgment sometimes. Cespedes has a rocket.
Yeah.
Remember that throw? Was it at Fenway last year?
Yeah.
Right? From the corner to home plate. So.
Does Jeff Francoeur get extra credit points for pitching this week?
Well, he's probably not going to have a strong arm anymore after 53 pitches, but.
Boy, that one turned nasty on the mound.
Well, it should have. That whole thing was embarrassing.
Here's Matt Duffy.
But growing up, I mean, you guys remember? I remember Clemente. Obviously, I saw it in highlights. But the Clemente throw from right field, Parker in the All-Star game to Gary Carter. Like, those plays last forever. I remember Vladimir Guerrero doing.
Well, it seems like in that era, 70s, 80s, Parker, Valentine,
Jesse Barfield,
Dwight Evans.
Yep.
Andre Dawson could really throw. I mean, you had almost every team seemed to have a right fielder who had a cannon.
I wish Andre Dawson had not spent a lot of his career on turf, because I would have loved to have seen him stay healthy longer.
Backhanded stop, Cayaspo. Stretch Van Slyke, and the inning is over. Giants get one. 10-2 Dodgers going to the bottom of the 8th. everywhere. Thanks to everybody who sent in their pictures tonight using hashtag BBTNDads. Glad to have you with us, and again, happy Father's Day to all the wonderful dads out there tonight.
Happy Father's Day to you guys as well.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
You got your son with you.
I do. I have my youngest son, Garrison, is in the box to the left watching the Dodgers, and he got a hat in the Dodger clubhouse, and he was asking me if he should wear it into the Giant clubhouse. That would jeopardize his chances. I said, it'll jeopardize the chances of getting out of the Giant clubhouse.
He's dressed up all spiffy tonight.
He looked good. Not now.
Very disappointing. He said it was too hot.
Yeah. He was struggling a little bit with the weather.
And like all shilling children, he's a good listener, which I suppose you have to be so.
They have their own minds, yeah. Do they or do they not?
They do.
There he is. And he's chowing down just like Dad does.
Got his In-N-Out Burger shirt. He's all doing a little dancing. He won't bend the brim of the hat.
No,
that's
the way they wear it.
No, that's killing me. Just killing me.
He is 12?
He is 12. He's a goalie.
Yeah.
Loves to play hockey. There he is. Loves to play hockey.
Looks like he's practicing slider.
I think he's got catch-up issues right now.
Yeah, he does.
He needs a little help.
I think he was imitating Javi Lopez. A little slider spinner going up there.
Oh, he's a wonderful kid. I'm lucky. I married a beautiful woman, and I have 4 wonderful kids, and they're still around. Which
they still like you?
I don't know about that. I think traveling is helping.
Less is more.
Right, right. Less of me is more of them.
Javier Lopez into the game for the Giants. First at bat of the night for Scott Van Slyke.
I used to get on Javi all the time. I played with him in Boston. Tremendous guy, great teammate. But he'd show up in August with 60 appearances and 22 innings.
Yeah.
And I'd say, you're not allowed to ice after the game. You can't. You're not allowed to ice because you have. My thing was to see if he could hit 100 pitches in a season. But he has done an amazing job for them.
And he's made a very good living for himself and a heck of a career for him.
And again, a phenomenal teammate.
Kiki Hernandez will bat now. Lopez this year, 32 appearances, 19 innings, 6 hits. 6.
Well, the amazing thing about that is every one of those appearances is to get the toughest lefties out for the most part on the other team.
Right. Like if this is a close game, he's facing Adrian Gonzalez.
Or Peterson.
He's facing Jock Peterson.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Matt West up in the Dodger pen.
Going through the roster today, ain't we?
Lopez may not face any lefties in this appearance, but just for interest's sake, lefties are 2 for 37 against him this year. That ball will get all the way to the right field wall, and it'll be a double for Kiki Hernandez.
Well, this is the toughest part of the night right now, and that ball just kept traveling. He got a bad read on it. Looked like he didn't break back toward the ball, but nothing you can do. Once it hits the wall, bounces over your head. Kiki Hernandez is going to get a double on that one anyway. But yeah, this is a tough time to see right now.
So now Alex Guerrero. The Dodgers have scored 10 runs, and Guerrero wants to get in on the fun. He's 0 for 4, strikeout and 3 flyouts. A hot shot out to second. He's 0 for 5, 2 down, and the runner to third.
Well, this is what Maxwell's looking at right now. The lights are on, but yet it's still bright enough out there that it's hard. This is and the stands are dark. This is to me, this was the hardest time to pick up a ball in Dodger Stadium, playing the outfield here. That's why I was so happy they moved me to first. And I apologize to Andre Ethier. I said, do you ever get fooled by the depth of your bleacher, of your stands, the tiers?
Yeah.
How, like, instead of going more up like most, they go back. And he said, because we were talking about playing left field here, and he said, I never thought about that. I'm like,
oh, good. So now you put that in his head.
Yeah, well.
Confidence, coach.
Yeah. Don Mattingly wants to talk to you.
No longer allowed to do Dodger games on ESPN.
As Grandal has hit 2 home runs tonight, both of those from the left side. Turns around about a right-handed against the lefty Lopez. The 1-2. And a ground ball out to short. Crawford. We will go to the 9th. The Dodgers 3 outs away from a victory. The game as a team that was struggling offensively. That is no longer the case. They have hit 4 home runs, have 10 runs on 16 hits, and they're on their way to salvaging the final game of this series and getting on the plane for Chicago, still in possession of first place in the National League West. To the 9th, 10-2 Dodgers. New pitcher is Matt West. Made his Dodger debut yesterday, pitched a couple of innings. Those are his numbers in the minors. He was acquired from the Blue Jays in exchange for cash considerations back in early May. He will face Casey McGee. Dodgers are expecting to get some relievers back really in the next few days. Joel Peralta, Paco Rodriguez, Pedro Baez, all on the DL right now and all progressing on rehab, and all could be back within a couple of days or maybe at most a couple of weeks. That will change the look and feel of the Dodger bullpen.
Peralta told me he's going to go out and play catch today. He's had a couple rehab assignments, and so if all goes well with his throwing today, he's going to be on the roster tomorrow in Chicago.
Dodgers starting a 4-game series at Wrigley tomorrow night.
looks young, doesn't he?
This is the kind of guy that makes you wonder from a pitching perspective. Okay, how deep are the Blue Jays? This is what, mid-90s, righty? For cash.
For a team that has some pitching issues.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, no, mid-90s righty.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we don't need it. We have too many of these. Like,
give us a couple bucks.
Now here, I have 5 aces. You take one.
I think they ran into, just living there, I think they ran into a 40-man roster kind of thing, so they had to move a guy or two. But
yeah, but don't you try and get a player every opportunity you can for I mean, again, this is not 89-91. This is a power arm.
It's fair ball. Puig will stop it as McGee winds up at second base. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN is presented by Taco Bell's Grilled Stuffed Nacho, the first nachos designed not to be shared. Live Mas, and in part by Chevrolet. Find new roads.
That could have been a lot worse than it was. He actually made a really good play. That's a tough corner, the way the ball runs there. A little like Fenway. That ball gets by you there. It's rolling around. I think one of the things young pitchers have to get used to in the big leagues is unlike I think a lot of times in the minor leagues, good pitches in the big leagues get hit. And you can make a good pitch on a fastball down the way, which is what just happened. And there's a guy on second.
Here's Brandon Crawford. Ooh.
Yeah, this is for a guy this big. He's incredibly athletic, but look at that, had a chance to be a nightmare. I honestly think he does a lot of that, like the slow getting up, just to try and lure somebody into going.
I think he understood once he fell he wasn't going to get Casey McGee at second base. So, you know, let's.
But that's, I mean,
add a little bit to this
big boy.
Oh my goodness!
You know, physically, the was Jorge Soler for the Cubs.
Yes,
a lot alike. Big boys who are just pound for pound ridiculously strong
and can run.
Well, the athletic.
Well, they look like football players.
Yeah.
They look like baseball players. Swing and a miss by Crawford. 1-2. Crawford tonight, a strikeout, a ground out, and a walk.
You know, that's Crucky-like flow right there, that hair. Very, very much.
Vintage Crucky.
Yep.
80s Crucky. 90s Crucky.
I didn't have that. Is there? Like, yeah, when I was talking to him today, he didn't have a hat on. He got really nice hair.
Yeah. That's pretty.
Pat Burrow actually texted me last year during a game. We were doing the Giants. And I think Pat likes his hair too, so I have something in common with him.
Peterson with room. One down. Well, as we all know, every now and again, Yasiel Puig can let his emotions get the best of him. Sometimes that results in some kindling. Reminiscent of Bo Jackson back in the day.
Oh.
This one is the all-time.
That's
the best.
That's the separator right there. That and when he ran up the wall, like, vertically.
Yeah.
That was some kind of special watching that guy on both fields.
Justin Maxwell the bat.
He's a good guy, man.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, goodness.
I thought he was as athletic as Dion, 120 pounds heavier with muscle, who liked contact.
Yeah, he enjoyed that part of it.
When he ran over Bosworth, that was like one of the greatest highlights ever.
Watch that today.
Good man. Good man. I wonder if the older players look at like a guy like Bo and say, wow, I'm glad I played when I did.
You got to remember how big Bo was. He was bigger than, you know, those guys in the 60s and 70s, but bigger than their linemen.
Right. Well, those 60s and 70s linemen were kickers in the 90s. I mean, there were some big boys. Chuck Bednarik was a big guy, but Bo Jackson was like, just, what?
Massive.
A whole other level of athlete. Just the
right. I mean, he might have been the most athletic person in the world at one time.
But I still say this about a guy like Jim Brown, who I've heard people say, well, he wouldn't be as good as he was because he would be able to run over people because linebackers are bigger than him. He would have figured it out.
Yeah.
And he would have been as good or better.
He might be a pretty good linebacker.
I've got to believe he likes contact.
Yep.
Yeah, that him and Puig was kind of fun.
Yes, he did. 2 down. So they're an out away from leaving town with a 1.5 lead over the Giants.
Crucky can speak to how he felt, but I always felt like a game like this on a getaway day didn't matter what the homestand was like or how your last 7 or 8 games were. Everybody left the park, if you're a Dodger, feeling good.
Yep.
A lot easier getting on that plane flying halfway across the country after a win.
Well, and a lot easier getting up tomorrow to go to the park feeling good about your team.
And pretty good going to the ballpark tomorrow knowing Clayton Kershaw's on the mound, and then Greinke the next day. Neither Kershaw nor Greinke pitched in this.
That always feels good no matter what you do the day before. Because those are Clayton Kershaw is a guy who I always felt like when you know a guy's pitching Saturday on Monday, that's a different pitcher.
That thought has entered my mind before a few times.
RJ was the one I always used to laugh about. Him and Pedro, like you knew when they were pitching. I knew as a pitcher when they were pitching because I wanted to watch them. But
well, you know, like you look at the rotations, how they set up, and you're playing a game on Friday thinking about Sunday.
Well, you know who may be thinking that right about now? The Philadelphia Phillies, because they're next up for Max Scherzer.
Yeah, and every one of them.
Yeah, and the way this baseball season's going, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Phillies will have to drop a 5 spot on him in the first.
Yeah,
well, I mean, look what they did to Waka today. Waka's been outstanding.
Yeah.
I could see them getting into the 9th with another. I mean, he's just some kind of special right now.
Last 2 starts, 18 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 hit batter, 26 strikeouts.
Went into those starts with 1 career complete game.
Right. A strike away.
I'll tell you the other thing on the flip side for the Giants, this is one of the 50 you lose. The flight won't be as fun, but you know what? Hey, this happens. We had a good series, good, whatever.
Yeah, the glass is half full, glass is half empty. We lost 10-2 possibly, but we won 2 out of 3.
Yeah, a walk-off loss would stink. This one you kind of chalk it up and get after it tomorrow.
Yeah, these are easy games to forget here, except for the starting pitcher. But
Tim Lincecum's going to feel like he's on a plane to Siberia tonight.
By the way, Jake Peavy, we mentioned him earlier. He pitched on rehab today down at AAA. Threw over 90 pitches. He pitched well, same as Matt Cain did yesterday. Both of them are on the verge of rejoining the team.
Did they both pitch in the same place?
Yeah, in Sacramento, right? Sacramento. Yeah.
It's like to be their opponent.
Yeah.
We're getting Cain and Peavy this.
I was as nervous, if not more so, in those starts than just about any starts I ever made.
Can you imagine calling your parents and say, yeah, guess what, Dad? I'm facing Cain and Peavy the next 2 days. Yeah, they're probably thinking, oh, man, you're in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And it's over. The Dodgers win the final game of the series by a 10-2 score over their arch rivals from San Francisco. Justin Turner, another home run, his third in as many games. Yasmani Grandal, his second career 2-home run game. Adrian Gonzalez, a nice night as well. 3 hits, including a home run. 10 runs, 16 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 8 hits, and 1 error for the Giants. Brett Anderson gets the win tonight for Los Angeles. He goes to 3-4. Tim Lincecum in his shortest ever Major League start, just an inning and a third, takes the loss. He falls to 7-4. The Dodgers are heading to Wrigley. The Giants are heading home. They'll play the Padres on Tuesday night. The Dodgers a game and a half up on the Giants atop the National League West. Get your baseball news and highlights on Baseball Tonight tomorrow at 5:30 Eastern Time on ESPN2. Our next MLB telecast tomorrow, 8 Eastern, the White Sox and the Twins. Again, the final, the Dodgers 10 and the Giants 2. For John Kruk, Kurt Schilling, Buster Olney, I'm Dan Shulman saying so long from Dodger Stadium. Sports Center comes your way in 15 seconds.